Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. I'm Steve Shaw. I'm joined by FAZ Lifts, and in just a second, I'll tell you who that sexy guy is. Before we dive into that, I appreciate you guys joining me. It is Friday, September 3rd, and a few housekeeping things. If you're new here, please post up your question. We'd love to have your questions. No question is a dumb question unless it's a stupid question. Then it's a stupid question, but we'll still answer it maybe. And if you post a question and we don't respond, we're not seeing it. So just understand YouTube can be quite fickle. Maybe shorten your question length and try posting it up again. If not, you can slide into our DM, send us the question, and we would be happy to help. All right. So I'm joined by FAZ. FAZ, where can they find you on YouTube, Instagram, social media, Twitter, Zoom, everything on the universe?
Hey folks, I am FAZ Lifts on basically everywhere. So I have a podcast, Instagram, YouTube as well. So go ahead and check me out, and it'll be nice to hear from you.
So FAZ, occasionally on YouTube Live or Massive Iron Live, I've run clips of videos where it had music in the background, and they would block my whole like YouTube would block my whole video, right? So the introduction is actually some crap music I put together like 25 years ago when I was a little snot. So just a little piece of trivia. Somewhere along the line, I took that off digital and moved it to, or took it off analog and moved it to digital. So FAZ, what's going on? What's on your mind? What's going on in your world? Any hot topics this week or anything that just plaguing your mind? You can't get it out.
We are all good. You know what? Here's a question for people, and let's see what they think. Because I had this conversation with a friend of mine at the gym, and he was of the opinion that you could call yourself an athlete of a particular sport, even if you just had a pass. Yeah, right. You know what I'm about to say. So he said he was a powerlifter, but he'd never competed. And I kind of thought on that. Personally, I thought, I've put in 12 years of competing, done over 30 competitions, and I paid the fees, been red lighted by the judges, suffered the defeats, won the trophies, done the travel, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like I deserve it. So, but people are out there saying, hey, well, I'm a powerlifter without ever competing. So what are people thinking? Not that I care particularly, but it was something that a friend of mine and I was talking about. What do you think about that?
Now, this goes back all the way to the muscle and brawn days. We've had this discussion. I remember this discussion as long as time began. In my opinion, you're only a power lifter if you compete. You are practicing powerlifting, or you like powerlifting, or you're competing for a powerlifting competition. But until you actually compete, you are not a powerlifter. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And the same thing with you can't say I'm a bodybuilder. I'm in the muscle building. I like bodybuilding. I might compete in bodybuilding, etc. But I don't know. It's like ultra running is different. Like when I say I'm an ultra runner, well, you can't say you're an ultra runner unless you've run 50K or more, right? But I never used it until I did it in an actual race.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of my point, is that there's quite a lot to powerlifting rather than just doing the squat, bench, and deadlift. There's a lot. There's the commands, there's the outfit you got to wear, there's the whole setup of doing 9 lifts on the day. It's quite a particular thing. It's not just going into the gym and doing the squat on your favorite day of the week with your favorite belt and your favorite platform and your favorite bar and all that kind of stuff. It's a whole range of factors. And I think probably the reason why non-competitors think that it's all the same is because they don't really know all that stuff. There's quite a lot that goes into it. And I remember I did my first show, and it was quite a rude awakening. There was these people shouting at me to squat and then to put the rack and all that stuff. It's quite involved. So that's my stance.
Before we continue, guys, post up your questions. We'll be diving into them just shortly, so I appreciate your patience. Yeah, I like coaching powerlifting. I've coached many people, men, women, Special Olympics, and there's things in coaching, that I get my people to do, like everybody's nervous and wound up. So I get them to sit down, get off their feet, relax. I don't want extra stress on their lower back from standing for 8 hours a day. You got to make sure they're eating, make sure they're staying hydrated because they're burning, their metabolism's up, their stress levels up. It's a powerlifting meet is not training for powerlifting at the gym. They're completely two different things. And you have the random things that happen, Faz, like you're at a meet and we're doing deadlift warm-ups, and there's 3 deadlift warm-up stations.
Yeah.
And this was my first meet. You see a woman hop on, no, my second meet. You see a woman hop on, put 245s on the bar, and you're like, I'm going to hop in and grab a quick warm-up sit over there because no one else is by her. And then you realize it's 5s, and you just about throw the bar through the ceiling because it's the plastic weights. And so you have all the unexpected. It's like my last meet, I was going to open with a 600 squat, and I'm about ready to do my first warm-up, and some geared guy with quadruple ply had to hop in and get his strap on monolift, and I'm like, you mother,
The thing that happened to me in my second meet. So I went in and I took in some food to eat backstage, and I took in a bunch of orange juice, and I had a lot of caffeine pills. Wham! Needed to poop straight away. Just diarrhea straight away. So I'm all belted up, everything on, and I gotta go. So,
let's not even talk about the fact that you probably don't sleep at all the night before.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought, this happened to me in powerlifting. I didn't sleep very much, and some of my long runs, when we were recording our documentary 96 Hours about my running experience, there's a run and I didn't sleep at all. We were in an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere. It was hot. I just couldn't sleep. And you're running in blazing heat, the hardest elevation changes I've ever done. Like, there's so many things like that, you just in competition. So let us know what you guys think. Are you a bodybuilder, a power lifter, or ultra runner if you haven't competed?
Yeah, what do you call yourself? What's your take on it?
All right, here we go. Stein, first in. Thank you, Stein. Glad to see you first in. And that's my ugly face. Josh, please keep the live chats. Don't ruin my schedule. We'll take that into consideration. What I'm trying to figure out is how to do a podcast and a live video. Do I do the live once a month? Do I do the live every week? So I'm just trying to figure it out.
I personally feel that Steve will be very good on podcasts because I think his style of talking. So I've been kind of trying to push him in that direction too. I've had my podcast now for coming on 3 years, and I think Steve would be great on that kind of stuff.
The only thing I don't know, Faz, is whether I should do guests or not deal with that headache. Did you do a lot of guests on yours?
Combination of both, Steve. Combination of both. I molded it mostly around the topics that I wanted to cover, and then I looked for guests who would get those. So I had a guy who was an expert on eating disorders. He came on and we talked eating disorders in bodybuilding. It was great. One of my most popular episodes. I've had other people who were female bodybuilding coaches, come on to specifically talk about female bodybuilding. So a whole bunch. I look for the topic, and then if there's a guest who's really good at that, or just somebody you find interesting, interview them in a sense, and it's a good learning experience for you too.
So I want to make a quick comment about, since I've been doing YouTube like for 10 or 11 years, having worked in the industry a long time, Faz, and like when you work in a field and then you do it as a hobby as well, right? There can sometimes you got to make sure there's no conflicts of interest. Like working at Muscle and Strength, you don't want to say anything that's going to get you fired, in that field. And you're dealing with a lot of wacky, zany, obnoxious, lying, crappy people. So you got to be really careful. And I was always very, very dry on YouTube. And since I'm, out of that field, I tend to sometimes slip into WWE mode where I just feel like I'm cutting a promo just because, you're doing videos for a while, you get a little bit bored and you just want to have fun with the topics. Yeah. So people have probably noticed a change in the last couple of years that more sarcasm, more humor, whatever.
I think people like that. I like that about your videos. So
I'm always insecure about it because I
yeah.
want the things to be about the information, but I don't know, man. I mean, when you answer questions for 35 years,
Yeah.
the amount, and Faz, I'm going to have you talk on this real quick and then we'll dive in. The amount of overthinking. Like, really, lifting is simple. Consistency, progressive overload, a good exercise selection. And I posted yesterday on Instagram, Faz, and I'd like your take. Like, if you take somebody that has made results, I can go in and do less volume than you. I can go in and use fewer exercises than you, less frequency than you, and I can go get better results than you. Because it's not complicated once you know what it takes. And really, it's just consistent hard work over time.
Yep.
Are there any holes in that you see, Faz?
There aren't. And I just want to tell you guys a little story to back this up. It's a horror story, okay? So Halloween's come early. And now when I first started on the forums in 99, there was a guy on the forums who was an authority on lifting weights, and he would look into like what he called science. And he tried to, we didn't have much science back then. It was all pieced together stuff. His name was Ron. And he was really into what he thought was a science. He kind of overthought stuff all the time. He was always thinking. Every month he tried a new routine. And he did this. He did something else. He did high reps and he did low reps. And he felt the muscles and he went heavy. Every single month he did something else. But he was very well spoken. He wrote about this all meticulously, about his thought process. And he never got any results. Now, I reconnected with Ron last year, 20 years later, and he still didn't have any development whatsoever. And he still had a litany of reasons why. Like, he could explain to you exactly why, but he literally just still looked like a child, but just with an older face. So just let that scare you guys. I think I say it all the time. I'm sure Steve does as well. Like, just start now. Stop dicking around.
I made a video once called "Fuck Your Program." And it's literally like, fuck your program. I don't give a fuck about your program because it doesn't matter as much as you think. It does and it doesn't, right? It's like, okay, you got a road. Is it a dirt road or is it a paved road? If it's a paved road, go run. Go get after it. If it's a good program, go get after it. If it's a bad program, improve it. But, if I'll say this and then we'll get moving. And I'm sure you have this happen, or you'll have this happen more. I had the luxury of this happening quite a bit because I worked in the industry. People would come to Tiger Fitness just to train with me. I had people. It was a weird experience, but it's true. And when clients come train, like I had a guy. I'm not going to name his name because I don't want to embarrass him if he's watching. And I'm not trying to make fun of him, but this is a true example. He came to train with me, and we do bench. And he's like, I'm done, dude. I'm done. 3 sets of bench. Like, we did 3 sets of bench. Like, I work up to a heavy 5, 5, 2, whatever I want. And then usually it's 315 for max reps, 275 for max reps, 225 for max reps. That's just the way I like to do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For fun. So he was done after that. Like, I'm done. 3 sets, pushed to the max, tapped out. I'm like, nah, we're going to do dumbbell bench now, amigo. So I grab the 150s and I do 3 sets of 10. And I'm not bragging. This is just what it is.
Yeah.
He grabs the 40s, and he's been training. He's 40 years old, been training for 17 years or whatever. I'm like, man, go get the 60s. He's like, I can't do them. I'm like, yes, you can. Like, go get – so he knocks out 10 reps on the 60s. And the next set, I'm like – he puts them down. He's like, I can't go on anymore. I'm like, yes, you can. Shut up. Go grab the 70s. So he grabs the 70s and does them. He's like, okay, I'm really done. Like, nah. We're going to do 2 sets of max push-ups, and then we're going to go over to the machine chest press. So eventually we work our way to cable tricep extensions. And at this point, he's seeing Jesus and Buddha and Hitler and all kinds of fantasy creatures and whatever. And he puts on like 50 on the cable tricep extension. And my wife works in. She's like, can I work in? So my wife moves it up to 120. I'm like, do you see what's going on here? Like
Right.
you're not challenging yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I did a video where I was talking about people holding back, and I gave the example of a couple of guys I was working in with who were 7 reps away from failure when they thought they were at failure, and there was a whole bunch of people in the comments saying, "How do you, who is training 7 reps away from failure, and thinking they're at failure?" But then it's like, if that was you, how would you really know? Like how would you actually know it? You weren't getting after it unless you were there with somebody who was able to see with an eye and could see that you just weren't pushing yourself.
and for those of you guys lifting, I want you to understand that this is very serious what we're talking about, because many of you think it's not you, but for many of you it is you. And this is not a put down, or it's not my balls are bigger than your balls. I want you to get results, but at the end of the day, like there's a point where people reach where they stop pushing themselves because the weight feels heavy. And I've said it over and over again, and this is my last thought. Just because the weight feels heavy doesn't mean you can't lift it, and doesn't mean you can't get one more.
At a certain point, everything feels heavy. Once you're past, like, I don't know, 3 plates on the squat, it all feels heavy. So
yeah, and Faz, I did a video on that. People saying 315 feels heavy, I can't go any heavier. I said at my peak, when I was close to a 700-pound squat, when I would get, and I was squatting 2 to 3 times a week, basically every third day. When I would get to 315, it felt heavy. Then I do a warm-up set with 365, and it felt heavy. It felt heavy because it is heavy. And 405 felt heavy, and 455 warm-up felt heavy, and 505 warm-up felt heavy. And if I went up to 600 that day, 545 warm-up felt heavy. Yeah. But you can still lift the weight.
Yeah, right. Oftentimes the weird thing is it feels heavier than it looks. You video it and you watch it back, and it actually looks fine, but you're like, oh God, that crushed me.
Yeah, I'll tell the client, like, oh man, that was a really fast and clean rep. He's like, oh, I nearly died. It was awful. All right, let's get rolling. Josh Benware just started doing reverse grip bench. I don't know, Faz, some people are naturally okay, limb lengths and whatever, to do this. I cannot do it to save my life. I don't like it I don't like Jamie Chaos and Pain. Jamie Lewis Chaos and Pain used to do this, and God bless him, right? But I can't do it.
Do you remember Anthony Clark? That really big, I think he was Samoan.
Yeah.
Super strong guy. He benched 500, I think, maybe with a reverse grip. But I don't know. It's not for me. Hopefully, Josh, if you're doing it, you're perhaps doing it in a Smith machine where the stability is, a bit more in your favor. I just don't think it's that useful. For me, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like doing, tricep push downs, but with that grip. When people do that, because they think it increases engagement, but it doesn't really do anything. It's kind of like that. I don't know, Josh. You let us know. Like, how are you liking it? What do you think?
I will say this: there's about 5% of people that could probably gain a lot of value out of lifts like this, and it's an arbitrary percentage, but for the rest of us, there's a much bigger pool of lifts that are better choices. All right, 3 days grace. Favorite upper back exercise for a more stable, hence stronger bench. Also, our serratus exercise. I don't like saying there's one favorite back exercise for a stronger bench. I'm a guy that wants to get everything from head to toe as strong as possible. I don't train weaknesses. I train everything as a weakness. And if a blatant weakness develops, then I'll be like, okay, I'm really like my bench is not up to my deadlift. So I do everything on back strong. How about you, Faz?
So I had this feedback from the judges in my last bodybuilding show that I didn't have as much thickness across my upper back as I did my lats. My lats are quite big and they're low, so they stand out. But my upper back didn't really match the development of my lats. So I started to really focus on chest-supported rows with handle more like this, so I was able to pull to the upper back. So like Steve, I don't have one particular exercise, but anything which you're chest-supported and you're rowing to more like the sort of here-ish towards the nipple line rather than lower to your stomach, I think you're pretty good to go. And I'm not talking about like face pulls, like screw those, like actual heavy stuff, when you're maybe lying face down on a bench like a seal row or just some sort of chest supported machine row, something like that, I started to go. And when I switched my grip to more of a higher grip, I realized how weak I was. And you could see it from my show pictures. Upper back just wasn't as good as the lats and stuff. So that's kind of what I'd say. I'd also say one more thing. Steve, do you remember the Kelso shrugs?
Yeah.
Paul Kelso, those are great. Just get on a cable row machine and just literally keep it, rather than do a full cable row, just keep your arms straight and just shrug backwards like that. It's a pure upper back exercise. No, you're not limited by your arms at all. It's a great exercise, very good for stabilization and what you're asking for.
Yeah, and with those, if you try those, understand it's like shrugs or calf raises. You have a limited range of motion. So you're going to have to maybe do a little bit more volume, or maybe a static hold at the end wouldn't be a bad idea every other rep or something like that. Faz, my nickname, somehow, you create this stuff, 12 years ago, you just toss out a name, and then 12 years later, you're Ben the Barman, right? But that's not deadlifting at all. That's a bench cue. And few people understand that. When I bench, and this goes to stability, I focus on trying to bend the bar down at the ends, and I row it to my chest. And have you ever seen the video, Faz, of me doing the 500-pound bench with chains and blah, blah, blah?
I think I have.
People make fun of me, Faz, because my eccentric is tediously slow.
Right. Yeah, I remember.
So I'm going to share that with you guys, because I want to talk a little bit about benching. We'll just get this off here. But I row the bar down to my chest. That helps with stability for me. And a lot of people will think that, if you go slow or row it slow, you can't generate power. But I keep that tightness. We'll wait for Faz to get back. And one other point I want to make. What was I thinking? As far as there was another point I was going to make about upper back tightness on bench, but man, I forgot it. So we'll wait for Faz to come back. As far as your second question, are serratus exercises worth doing? We'll get into that in just a second. So people make fun of me over my eccentrics. Here it is. Okay, well, this is only 43 seconds, so let me just scoot this forward a little bit. Now, this is 500. Obviously, I got chains. They deload 40 at the bottom and a slingshot, which adds about 40. So I was just trying to get close to about 430, 440 bench. That was my goal at this meet. But the thing here is I try to bend the bar down, and I try to row it towards my chest. And it looks almost like a double ply bench.
Yeah, real slow.
Yeah. One other point I want to make, Faz, is that during this period of time, we're talking bench stability, I didn't train arms directly. I gave that up. And what I found is my eccentrics started to feel slower. So when I added arm work back in, my eccentrics started to feel more natural. Have you ever experienced this? We're talking bench stability. So,
I mean, it's not something that I particularly thought of at the time, but now you mention it, yeah, I was a very, very slow bencher as well. And when I was powerlifting, I did mostly squat, bench, and deadlift multiple times per week. I did very little in the way of assistance. So potentially that is why. There you go.
All right, serratus exercises. Faz, I've never done a serratus exercise, so any thoughts?
I don't think for the purpose of a more stable bench, it would be useful, although I'm not massively familiar with scapular winging. I think the exercises for the upper back would stabilize the scapula a lot better. The only serratus exercise that I know which is particularly useful is the pullover, or like the breathing pullover, or just a regular dumbbell pullover, as it's done like after squats. But I don't know how helpful that is for the question you're asking.
So, Faz, I got an interesting question for you. We live in a powerlifting world when it comes to form, meaning the strength coaches are very informed on form, whereas many, not all, many of the bodybuilding coaches wouldn't know good form if it smacked them in the ass, right? It's just kind of the world we live in. I'm not making general statements, but it's kind of that way. So in powerlifting, you can piece together all these form cues, and they're really great for a single rep set. But if you have to do an 8 to 10 rep set, maintaining all this tightness over 45 seconds becomes extremely, extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So what I try to teach folks, and what I try to teach Faz, and I'd like your opinion on this, is instead of trying to set up with this perfect every rep, what can we do for minimum stability, minimum maintainable stability in a hypertrophy phase? Something you can sustain, as far as tightness over the course of an 8 to 10 rep set. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, with regards to that, I guess my mind goes to my own training, and I used to utilize a lot of high rep sets. I remember the last time I went up to a big single, I was using sets of 8, and that's what I peaked off. So I actually didn't really rely on stability that much, because not in training, simply because when I went to do a 1 rep max, I could get it. I don't know if if that makes sense. So I didn't really focus on stability when I was doing 8 rep sets. I just focused on moving the bar. So when I did a 1 rep set, I always found it transferred over really well. In fact, if anything, I had very good transfer over. I mean, I peaked a 240 squat off 170 for 8 kilos. That was like the last time I went really heavy. So, I didn't find it to be much of a problem. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. I mean, because I've been benching for 35 years, and I don't do all this stuff that you guys do. I just get a minimum reasonable platform. And I never, at a meet when I'm doing a single, I'll set up a little bit differently. But in training, it's too tedious, it's too hard to sustain, and there's no ROI for me. And that's going to sound quite controversial, but I don't really need to do 72 form cues and pack and do this and blah, and the main thing I do on clients is, like, I don't want to see them dancing feet, like in every rep, because they're just loosey-goosey, complete loosey-goosey. So I'll tell them to press down on the ground gently and try to spread the forward gently, just to get there, not to have all that wobbly.
I'm glad you said that, because I never did either. When I was doing a set of I would really rely on sets of 5 to 8 a lot in the off season. I see these guys now, and every rep is like a single rep, but I would just pump them out, and I found a better transfer from that than I did. And I could always just tighten up for single max, and I found very good transfer over. In fact, I always got really good carryover from repetition sets to singles, so it worked.
Do you know the powerlifter Freaky D? Because I was just busting his ball, or he was busting my balls this morning on. I'm just trying. I can never find his damn name. Freaky D. Well, anyway, he does like dead benching with feet up. Feet up benching.
Oh yeah, feet up benching. Yeah.
And you can't stay tight during that, and like, you do that in a powerlifting sense, and you're good to go. You do that in a bodybuilding sense, and people have a heart attack. So, guys, just my opinion is lighten up on the obsession over form. Unless you're doing a single or double. All right, Faz, just 1 second. We got a special guest in the studio.
We have to do the visit. We have to do the weekly visit.
This is Mr. Bubba.
Oh, did you show them the new puppy?
Yes, I saw.
He's so huge.
Yeah, but he's like 8 months older, but he's a big boy. He's like,
a big one.
All right. And then we got my new guy. This is my new guy.
And there.
He snuck in and ate my pit bull's food, and now he's got this big fat tummy.
Oh, yes. He's like a big pudding.
Yeah, so people commented on my video this week, I was like, you got dog hair on your shirt. I'm like, yeah, I've been holding the dog all week, my puppy. So, all right, give me a kiss. Okay, thank you. All right, back to the program. Why is Stein always first? Because Stein,
he's from the future,
and you guys don't care enough.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
And that's why Richard Murray is always second from Scotland.
Harrison.
Man, my clients in Scotland said they were making vaccine cards mandatory or whatever in certain areas. I don't want to get into that stuff, but
yeah, I heard that.
So is it the same in the UK, Faz?
There's been some talk about for nightclubs that you have to have a card to get into nightclubs. Not that affects me at all. My nightclub days are all behind me, but there's been some talk about that. That's all so far.
I just try not to leave the house.
Yeah.
William Baker, happy Friday, gentlemen. I've noticed strain in my hip flexors during recent heavier bench and dumbbell bench. Is this likely a form issue? Wow. I've not seen that in bench. Any thoughts, Faz?
My first thoughts would be, let's have a look at the rest of your program, Will, and let's see what else. It's usually not just the bench that's going to do it. It's probably something which has been wanting to go for a while. Unless it's just a freak accident, then don't worry about it. But if it's something that happens fairly regularly, or you can feel it straining, then you may want to look at the rest of your program. I'll give you a prime example: elbow pain. A lot of the time, elbow pain comes from low bar squats. People tend to over-evaluate their upper body training, evaluate what they're doing for the bench. They feel the pain when they're benching, but actually the pain comes from the low bar squat. So I'd be wanting to look at your program, Will, and just have a look at, say, where are the gaps? Let's have a look at what you're doing. Maybe something wonky with your squats or deadlifts. So let's, it's going to be something to do with form. It's not just age, because it's unlikely to be that. But yeah, it's probably something to do with that.
I was going to say it could be squat related. When I see hip issues, I tend to see in my mind somebody that's wide stance squatting, low bar squatting, doing all the things I see are right, but are not good for their hips or their. So, William, I would encourage you to send a squat video to me, and I'd like to take a look. How's it going, Richard? Thank you for joining us. I had a second vaccination and felt ill. Okay, I'm just going to say this, and I'm not making social commentary, but I've noticed this in my clients. The second shot is leaving almost every one of them down for a while. So if any of you guys are going to take it, just kind of plan on that possibility. Feeling slightly better today, so planning to work out. Should I do the same weight? Well, first off, how long has it been? If it's been more than 10 days, that's usually when I take a lighter day, like 10 days out from squats or bench. I would make sure you hydrate. I would make sure you get in your electrolytes. I would make sure you get in extra carbs. I would make sure you get in extra sleep, and then listen to your body during warm-ups. Anything to add, Faz?
Yeah, just another reminder, like hydration is 3 components. Hydration is water, carbs, and electrolytes. So make sure you're getting all 3. Electrolytes is one that people miss, especially when they get sick, and that's what will injure you if you get back too soon. So salt your food, have lots of carbs and water, and you should be good to go. And
anybody that's curious, my special guest is just taking a snap on my arm, so that's why I'm. All right, what do we got here? Jake the Snake. All right, Jake the Snake Roberts is in the house. All we need now is Jimmy Snuka. Do you offer a service for just form checks? Actually, Faz and I were talking about that before this video. I'm going to be opening a new service where you pay a fee, a one-time fee, and you get access to, I'm thinking of doing this on a private Discord server, and you can post a form video once a week, so stay tuned. Paul Velasquez, what's sapping in from Albuquerque, New Mexico? 3 days grace. Your favorite fitness channel over 1 million subs. Faz, go.
Ooh.
Has Ryan Houston hit 1 million yet?
I honestly don't have one. I don't watch it. I should do better on this. And, ever since I've been on YouTube, I've been watching more of, say, Jeffrey Verity Schofield, more of Steve, more of Greg Doucette, just because I feel like I need to be in the realm, But I never used to watch that stuff on YouTube. I would just watch other stuff like, hobbies and stuff like that. So I actually don't have one. I'm such a bad YouTuber. So
what I do, I watch. When I run, I listen to a couple of videos of you, and then I get sick of you, and then I'll listen to Jeffrey. Well, I'm not sick, but when you run, for 2 hours, you need changes in vocal tone, and I used to watch what's his name? The big guy. Good grief, I can't even remember his name, but I'll share it later. No. He's a bodybuilder guy. James Tiny Vest.
Who's that?
We gotta check him out. James Tiny Vest. Okay. He used to have a pretty good channel, but he's I don't know if he does much anymore. I gotta set my dog down. He's going crazy.
I do watch a bit of Fuad Abiad stuff, but I don't like the one where they're all just like joking around. I just get a bit sick of that. But I like the ones where he does interviews with people. That's cool because so I'll listen to that if ever. But that's probably that. I guess that would be my answer. Yeah, I guess.
James Tiny Vest is kind of a guy like me, Faz, just an old guy. He's an old bodybuilder. I'm an old power builder, and lingering with the lower subs, just making videos, doing his things, and just a real guy,
Well, I've seen this guy. He's huge.
Yeah, and James is always nice to me. I'm always nice to James because we have a lot of the same philosophies. And I watch him, but I do check Greg Doucette's channel because I don't think anybody on the internet does a better job on YouTube Fitness does a better job of having like random topics. Like, where did you get this from? Like who has the time? I'm always amazed that he has the time to unearth these things, So, and I tune into Ryan Humiston because look, I don't like to be this guy. I don't like to be the guy that is like, this guy is way off. But Humiston built his body on big monster compound lifts. He has an old channel on the internet with it. And then, honestly, when you look at his channel, it's 8 best chest exercise. Like, if you just search, like chest, you're going to come up with 150,000 6 chest exercises, 5 chest exercises, the secret to thick chests, chest workout, 4 chest exercises, most underrated chest exercise, chest workout, get thicker pecs, blah, fucking D, blah, blah, blah. It's push button, get money, and it's all bullshit. So it irritates me. I'll just leave it at that. Irritates me. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you for the real muscle building content, Big Hairy Ugly Dude. Thank you for tuning in. And sorry to rant like that fast. All right. What's going on? Thank you for tuning in. I'm not sure what emoji that is, but we'll just assume it's not a.
I think I know what that is. I think that's 2 goats, greatest of all time. 2 of them.
Oh yeah,
it's complimentary. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, it's what's the emoji? It's not an eggplant emoji, so that's good.
Yeah. Right.
Me no want to train legs.
No, Bob, go train legs. In fact, switch this off. Go train them right now.
Bob. I don't want, you know what, Bob? I just want to sit on the couch and eat pizza and drink beer. That's all I want to do, Bob. But I don't do it because I'm an adult and I know that that's not the right way to take care of myself, Bob. All right.
I feel secondarily told off for you, Bob.
Oh, you older you get, man, it's just easier. What's going on, Bill?
See you, Bill.
Bill's a good guy. He's always always tuning in, helping him with his form. Let's see. You guys have changed my life. I started lifting about 5 months ago, and I look amazing. That's great, and that's a huge thing. That confidence, Faz. I don't know when you necessarily started lifting or how your results were out of the gate. I went into college in 1986, a skinny fat dork, 152 pounds. I came home at like 182, and everyone, like girls were whistling like at the arms and like, look at that butt. And guys are like, what's your steroid cycle? And like,
yeah. So, I was the same. January 2000, and blew up pretty much overnight. And I loved it.
It's just that confidence thing that lifting gives you, that mental strength.
You can't explain that to people when they do it right and they really get results. You know, we talk about it all the time, Steve, don't we? Like, just get in there, do it, work hard, get your gains. It's because we want everyone to experience how it feels. It feels so amazing. Do you remember the early days, Steve, where you just see changes in your body literally on like a monthly basis? It felt so good.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, getting the stretch marks and all that kind of stuff. It feels great, you know. So, yeah, no, good on you. I'm glad. And thanks for the compliment.
And, you know, once you get people complimenting you out of the blue, it's not an ego thing, but, you know, life is hard. We have a lot of stress. And when people go out of their way to say nice things to you, it's kind of like, I just worked hard and people can notice it. So it's some nice validation. What do we got here? Slick Willie. Have either of you ever been injured which kept you? Well, first, Faz, I tore a hamstring, but I immediately got back in, started doing body weights. I was hiking the next weekend trying to get it moving. I tore my front delt lifting an empty oil drum, and it took me a year to recover, or a year to get back up to full speed. In fact, the 500-pound bench that you saw, that was probably a year after I tore my front delt.
Wow.
So I've never been away from the gym. Have you, Faz?
No. The only time not from an injury, the only time I was away was when I was traveling around Asia. I was traveling for about a year or so, and I didn't gym for probably the last 3 to 6 months. But no, my two biggest injuries were, one was the hamstring, the hamstring of 2006, I think it was. But basically, I'd come back from traveling, and I decided to go straight into my old routine. Went up to and I was a very sort of thin, like 77 kilos, coming back from Asia, having just been backpacking like a hipster around China, Japan, and South Korea. And I came back, decided to pull a 180 deadlift, snap my hamstring, clean, boom. I think it was like a grade 2 tear, and it took me like 4 years to recover. And eventually I surpassed my old maxes. But that was hard. Like, it was psychologically and physically hard. Like, Steve, when you injured the hamstring, was that psychologically very difficult for you and like people around you and stuff like that? Because it was hell to me.
Mine, I lost confidence for about a year. Like, I was quickly, you know, within 6 months, I was back up to like 315 by 5 on squats, but I was very like fearful on every set. And I think to this day, it's the reason why I'll never squat over 400 again. Like, I've just gone, I've seen that road, and I don't want to do it again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I get you. There's a certain hesitation. Plus, also when you're at a point where you're happy with what you've done your lifts, and you're lifting at a reasonable level, there's no need to really push yourself. I get that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I want to be able to run 100 miles on the same day I bench 225 by 30. You know, that's a goal for me. But these days, I don't deadlift. I'm still obsessed with. I mean, I still would like to. I still like pulling heavy, and I still feel strong as a puller. But bench, I really never go above 225.
Yeah. My second worst injury was I did something to my back last year, and this was in a biking accident, so on a bicycle, like a push bike, and it was in March 2020, March last year, and that flares up every now and again. I'm mostly okay, but that flares up, and it flared up last week, so that's very painful when it happens. I'm pretty sure it's a disc issue, but in general, it's fine. You know, you just carry on doing the same things, you get stronger, and everything gets stronger around it. But it just had a bit of a flare up last week, so that tends to be a bit sensitive when there's a flare up. But that's not kept me out, because ultimately what's going to cure you is getting back in the gym and putting some stress on it and making it stronger.
So I got something to admit, and it's a very depressing thing to admit before we move on. Arguably the hardest ultra run in the world is the Barkley Marathons. And there's a video on YouTube, and I want you guys to watch it this weekend. It's the Barkley Marathons, the race that eats its young. You basically run for 60 hours, no map, no trail, no sleep, no nothing. crazy elevation gain, up and down, briars on the course, just insane. It's a race that's impossible to get into. That there's no entry form. You have to try to find a way to get the email of the race director. It's like every bit of, and then along the course, you have to find books in the dark and rip off your page number like 79 and bring back those 12 pages. It's impossible to get into, and it's impossible to complete. Only like 10 people ever have completed it. Well, they have a mini Barkley Marathon, and it's called the Fall Barkley Classic. And like everybody in the world wants to get into it fast. My wife got into it. Like, it's like winning the lottery. So I made the comment on the board, oh, my wife's in. I'm just going to sit around, eat pizza, and drink beer and watch her suffer, right? Because she has to do 50K without a trail in the briars and elevation. It's going to be hell. And he responds back, the spouses of anybody that's entered can now join. Like, I just got into the most difficult race. One of the most difficult, but you know what? I'm semi-detrained. Like, I've been in a down spell the last 2 months doing like recovery stuff and not running more than 3 hours a week. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I've been running 10 hours a week for 3 years, and I go on a detrain, just kind of a lick your wounds. I couldn't run 50K if I want to right now. So I fucked it up, fans.
Sounds intense.
All right. Yeah. Bill Monty, for weighted chin-ups, pull-ups, given how difficult it can be to progress on them, could doing 1 to 2 back-up sets pay off dividends? I got a method that I do with pull-ups, Faz. That's more block training, but I want to see your thoughts.
Yeah, I think with this one, I discussed this in a recent video of mine because I showed me doing some weighted chins. I'm quite fond of them. So I think adding weight is definitely the way to go. I don't like to go too high on the reps. So I try and keep the main set at about 6 reps or so, pretty low. But I find that it's just easier to progress adding small amounts of weight, like just 1 kilo at a time. And even if you're on a lean bulk, that tends to be okay. And just bear in mind, if you have gained some substantial weight from week to week, just add that into your calculation. So don't be depressed. If you've managed to maintain the reps, but you gained weight, then it's the net plus. So with regards to adding back offsets, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go there, because if that's the case and you progress more, well, maybe you should just be doing them anyway. So I wouldn't necessarily add the sets just for the purpose of this. Like, if you can add more sets and it leads to more progress without burning you out, then that's probably not a bad thing anyway. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. So in summary, yeah, stick to lower reps, add weight, and if you can do more safely, then perhaps you should be doing that. Yeah.
I would say there's 2 types of lifters: those that can do pull-ups out of the womb for days, and then lifters like me. And there's a lot of lifters like me. And one thing I want to leave you guys with is I want to remind you it's a long process. If you can only add 1 pull-up rep every other month, after 3 years, you're going to be phenomenal for the rest of your life. So don't give up on them. Keep doing them. Be patient, and just keep that frame. If you're not built for them, just play the long game and don't give up on them.
Yeah, I showed a video of me doing 25 kilos for a set of 5 a few weeks ago, and I'm now on 27.5 for a set of 5. So that's like 3 weeks of progress. I don't mind that. I'll take it. It's progress.
Well, one thing you touched on is many people jump up in weight too rapidly. And, just because a muscle can do it doesn't mean it's the best thing for your connective tissue or joints. So give it some time. Orion XS, weighted chins, the real secret to big bicepticons. I don't know. Ask Ryan Humiston. Is there any real secret to big biceps? Like the biceps are such a small muscle group. Like, how big can they get, right? I mean, they're smaller than calves.
I think the real big secret is you've got to actually be able to isolate the biceps. I mean, if on a chin your back takes over and your forearms take over, your biceps are getting nothing, and that's kind of true with me. Like I spent so long doing deadlifts and whatnot, my back is very well developed, my forearms is developed, my bicep is the weakest body part because I'm naturally a very good deadlifter. So if anything's the secret, I would say it's being able to actually use your biceps on bicep sizes. Makes sense, but there you go.
All right, next question. Thoughts on a Buffalo bar for bench? I've used a bowed bar for squatting. I believe it's great for the shoulders. It's a wider bar. The bowed bar, the Buffalo bar, is wider than a regular bar, so you can get super wide, and it's better on the shoulders. I don't know about this personally because my knee jerk is with your wrists outside of your elbows. I feel like you're going to get a weird internal shoulder rotation. And occasionally, yeah, that's probably okay. But in the long run, I just don't know why we want to take our elbows down lower on a bench. Because generally, Faz, the lower your elbows get on a press, the more strain on your shoulders.
Yep.
So I don't personally find the value in a lift like this.
No. I've never used the bar, but so take that for what it is. But yeah, for me that would be pec strain city. I don't like the idea of it.
I'm not trying to be alarmist. For me, it just comes down to there are 248 variations that are probably better for you than that. So I would probably use one of them.
Just some dumbbells would be fine, you know.
All right, let me get rid of that. Bree from Mongolia, where'd you go? There you are. Bree, glad you're joining us. It wouldn't be a Friday Live without Bree. And Josh Benoit, I'm an amateur recreational weightlifter.
Oh, that was with the reverse grip bench press question,
Yep.
wasn't it?
Yeah, and regarding the bodybuilding, do you call yourself a bodybuilder? Don't compete. Just train to be healthier and set example for my kids. He's saying he doesn't compete. Nothing wrong with that. I mean,
yeah.
I never pressure anybody into competing unless, Faz, they say, I'd compete in powerlifting, but I'm not strong enough.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, you're going to do a meet because you need to understand that you are strong enough.
Yeah. Or if they say, yeah, I could do that if I did a competition. Like, well, you know what? Well, go ahead and bloody do it then.
Yeah.
Show us all.
Yeah. Oh, you only did a 600-pound squat. Well, I see guys half your weight doing that all the time on the internet. Like, I don't know, man. I used to compete with the Lillibridges, and my weak 675-pound deadlift was usually the lift right before Eric Lillibridge. So that just means that there's like 80 people before me that didn't deadlift 675.
Right.
Right.
But Nigel, I would say that's probably the best reason to lift. So, yeah.
For enjoyment. I best classify casual bodybuilder who likes to stay lean and run a little bit.
Perfect.
Hey, I just like fitness and lifting. I happen to get into powerlifting 20 years just for fun to do a meet. And I've never done a bodybuilding show. A lot of volume is fun and intense. Nobody can deny the endorphins.
Yeah.
I mean, doing things that you like to do is fun. But just also understand that you have to temper that with do you want results? Do you want muscle? Do you not want to get injured? So you have to kind of balance things so you can build muscle and not get injured.
That was always the complaint that people had against some of the stuff that I would talk about on the forums. I can't remember if it was Muscle and Brawn exactly, but certainly prior to Muscle and Brawn, the hard gainer forums that I was on, people would always say, like, you're doing too much. It just isn't fun. But like, fun is very subjective, right? And so what I find fun is getting results. And since I've stuck with that over the years, that's been my fun. Like when I can go back, when I can go into the gym, I can get my little win for the day. I can tick off, go, okay, I got that PR. I added that rep. I added that kilo weight. For me, that's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, I don't think I could train without being obsessed with the specific end goal.
Yeah.
And right now I have all the muscle and strength I'll ever have, and it's on the downslide. And my goal is to save it, each day. That's fun for me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I work out twice a week and extra exercise for each body part. Takes around 4 hours.
Wait a second. Do you mean 4 hours per session? 4 hours total? 2 hours at a time?
I'm assuming 2 hours at a time.
Right.
Like you're not going to have some inherent penalty, like I know a lot of the old school lifters would lift that long, like Hepburn and, Reg Park, but they would take long, long rests and even drink milk in between sets. And, like an average guy, that seems like a lot. You're cramming a lot into each workout, it seems.
Yeah.
I'm assuming a lot of compounds.
Yeah, I did a video on this, on sort of a similar topic today on sleep and the idea of using sleep as a gauge for overtraining. But I said in that video, you can make progress on a less than optimal schedule. Like you can make progress while your sleep is going to crap because you're overtraining. But Devrin, what I'd maybe suggest to you is, why don't you try pulling back a little bit? Try taking out that extra exercise for each body part. See if you're still able to get stronger every week. Now, if you are, then what do you need the extra exercise for? The bottom line is getting stronger over time. It's not to do a certain amount of volume. The volume only facilitates you getting stronger week to week. It's not the end goal. So if you can get stronger week to week without the extra exercise for every body part, then maybe try that. You might sleep better. It might just be easier to gain. I don't know. Give it a try. You'd be in the gym for less time. You'd be less tired. I don't know. Just an idea. You maybe just remember, like volume, doing a set amount of volume is not the end goal. The end goal is to progress from week to week, because that means whatever you did in the week before was good and you got bigger and stronger.
So I'm going to add another thing for you to try, Devram, and that is dropping down to 2 sets per exercise and making one of them the money set, where you're trying to progress over last week, because you're going to chop some time. If you find on an exercise that you're making progress, then keep the 2 sets. If you find you're not making progress and you want to add a 3rd set in or whatever, then do so. But I would pare it down and build up.
Yeah.
Charlie, you're looking quite dapper and sexy in your avatar picture. That might be the sexiest picture we have so far. And I'm not being facetious. Your physique looks great. Both. Nice to see you. What's the most overrated exercise and body part versus the most underrated? Okay, let's try to keep this streamlined and simple. Most overrated exercise and body part, and most underrated. I'm just going to do exercise. The most underrated exercise. Underrated. Wow. In my world, I would probably say the dumbbell row or dip. Because I think too many people, I see too many people doing a 60-pound dumbbell row when they have the potential to do 150. I find there's, one can make an argument for the overhead press, but now more than ever, people are overhead pressing. So what do you just say for underrated, FAZ?
Underrated, I would say the lifts that got me my most mass in my first year of training were not the squat, bench, and deadlift, but they were the weighted dip, and seated press. I think those 3 for the upper body are insanely underrated. I think they're great exercises. And yeah, for the lower body, it was squat and partial deadlift. So in terms of overrated exercise, I would say, Charlie, anything which directly hits the front delts, I'm not a big fan of. I don't tend to do those. I do press overhead, but I can't even remember the last time I did a front delt raise. Like I saw this guy working next to me today in the gym, really skinny dude, and he was doing cable front raises. And I thought this is the exact, with one arm at a time, I thought this is the exact opposite thing you need to do. Like he must have been 6'4", and I'm pretty sure I outweighed him. So he was pretty skinny. I think the last thing you need to be doing is single arm front raises. You need to be hitting some big heavy stuff.
Well, outside of the obvious bicep, obsession, FAZ, I have a rule, and that's never do a front delta set ever, because I have never met a big, strong bodybuilder or powerlifter without overdeveloped front delts. And that comes from all the pressing that we do. And to go on when I said dumbbell rows being underrated, you rarely ever see anybody with overdeveloped rear delts. The front delts don't need direct work, and nearly every bro in the gym will do a bench press and then a front delt exercise. Like, stop.
I'll give you one more for underrated: the full deadlift. Mostly because there's this like anti-deadlift movement in bodybuilding at the moment, which I don't like. I build most of my muscle mass on my back mass with deadlifts. Deadlifts are great.
Wait, you're gonna upset Paul Carter.
Right. Yeah, right. Oh, gee, sorry, Paul. But yeah, no.
I like Paul, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. I saw his recent post. I like Paul as well. Me and Paul go back a ways. He won't remember me, but I remember him. But nice guy. But yeah, no, deadlifts, underrated for mass. Do your deadlifts.
Yeah, I mean, the floor deadlift, I didn't floor deadlift till it just wasn't part of the bodybuilding world. I did a rack deadlift for 20 years, but I did it for my lower back. Mm-hmm. So I would say, Faz, like, floor deadlift's definitely overrated. Just for the average lifter, even pulling from 3 inches off the ground is probably a little bit better with the same benefits. So, but man, I got to tell you, my back development didn't flower at all till I started doing deadlifts. And now I have like just a crazy, crazy back and the amount of thickness I have. And, you know, one thing that upsets me is I've done some crazy deadlift shenanigans over the years. You know who Chris Gethin is at all?
Yeah.
I did a video with him. We raced to 100 reps with 315. And I've done stuff like that. And the next day I always work up with intense lat soreness. And when I see somebody saying that deadlifts don't work your lats, you know, I'm like, look, they could just be unique to me. Like, I have a weakness, but, you know, something's going on.
So, you know what I think about a lot of these things is I think there's a lot of inter-individuality with regards to that. I think I'm not a big fan of blanket statements like, yes,
right,
deadlifts don't work your lats, or, you know, I don't know, but there's a bunch of other stuff. I think there's individual variances in play there.
Well, Faz, here's one thing I say, and then we'll move on. Just because you don't get sore or you don't feel a muscle from an exercise doesn't mean it's not building anything. Like, for 35 years, Faz, my quads never get sore on squats, but my hamstrings do. But my quads are immense. Yeah. So just because you don't feel something working or you don't feel soreness doesn't mean it's not having an effect.
Yeah, it's not correlated to growth.
So we have to dig deeper, and we have to have faith. Stan, how's it going in Norway? And we have asterisk here saying hi, comma. You know, and we got the high comma is hello from Russia. Don't get many Russian folks. I have clients all over the world, from South Africa to Singapore to China, but never a Russian client. To me, failure means I literally cannot perform another rep, so I don't go beyond failing.
I don't get the I go beyond failing. Well, I think going beyond failing is you've got negatives. You've also got static contractions. Like, I will regularly do a static contraction on my last sort of drop set of an exercise. So there's that. There's forced reps. There's negatives. There's drop sets. These are all, or like agonistic supersets, like dropping down to an easier exercise. These are all ways of extending a set and going beyond failure.
Right. And that's kind of the whole thing behind like rest pause work or the buffalo or the bulldozer style of training that I've taught over the years. And sometimes, Faz, I always ended up like on a deadlift or an RDL. I do a static hold or shrugs or something. Just kind of like that old WWE finisher mindset. Like, nothing's ever good enough. I just need a little bit more.
Yeah.
Sebastian, difference in muscle activation between sumo and conventional deadlift?
There's not much. Not much. I mean, adductors a little bit for the sumo, but apart from that, not much. You're still getting all the major areas here. I think you're probably getting a little bit more quad in sumo, a little bit more adductor in sumo, but aside from that, they're pretty much the same.
You talk about 12 to 15 sets on compounds. Generally, the only time I go up to higher than 12 sets for anything weekly might be back, just because I think you can take it. And there's so many great exercises for back. I really like to pound the back. So 9's a good starting point. And you can adjust down. I'd rather have you build up than do adjust down. So you could even start under. Don't worry about that. Just focus on hard sets, quality sets, even if you have to start with 2 sets per exercise and build up. Any additional thoughts, Faz?
Yeah, like Steve says, start with the baseline. And now remember, the main goal is progress. So if 9 sets lets you progress, great. If 6 sets lets you progress, great. You don't need to do more. Like, add more when you've stalled. So I really believe this now from talking to people on YouTube a lot and from coaching. The more I coach, is the last 5 or 10 years have been quite damaging in a way sometimes for hypertrophy research, because people are looking at the whole 10 to 20 sets thing as a mandatory baseline. So we've got like Joe, who's 40, just had a child, works a full-time job, and has a family with lots of sort of engagements, and is not 20 years old anymore, thinks that 10 to 20 sets is his baseline. Like, that's not your baseline, Joe. Your baseline might be lower. The 10 20 sets optimum hypertrophy thing is usually for people who are in their 20s, young, good recovery capacity, very little responsibilities, are able to sleep as they like, eat as they like. That's probably not you. So just bear in mind, do the minimum of what you need to progress, and that's all. Don't think of all these hypothetical research standards as a baseline, because they're not a baseline. The baseline is whatever lets you progress from week to week.
I've been lifting for 35 years. Maybe it's 36 years now. I forget how old I am. But never once did I ever count how many sets per body part I'm doing. Only when I look back to analyze, when people question, do I think. It's all pragmatic. Like, I work hard, and when the hard work is done and I have no more energy or will to live, then I'm done. That's it. Yeah. And like, when clients like, can I add a set for every exercise because I want them to add more volume? Like, you go into the gym, and if you're doing dumbbell rows, and if 2x12 doesn't bust your testicles, enough, and you want to do a third set, then do a third set. But make sure you're working them hard, and then if you want to add a set per exercise, do so. But don't worry about counting. Just worry about working hard, being very intuitive, and when I build workouts, I try to start with balance, and I have to look at numbers. Mm-hmm. Because if not, we end up with a Scott Herman workout, which I made a video about last year, where it was like 52 sets for chest and 11 for shoulders, which is ridiculous, right?
It's funny you mentioned that, Steve, because I use Scott Herman as an example for a bad routine in one of my videos as well.
Oh my God, it's probably the same routine. Anyway, I feel reverse grip bench press and upper chest. Hey, if you feel it, run with it. And don't ever let anybody tell you that you shouldn't do it because they don't feel it.
Yeah, cool.
We got that one. Hurts wrists a little bit, but it's still new. Wear some wrist wraps. See if it helps. Keep working on form. 1 cent. When using an AB approach to a push-pull leg split 4 times a week, can there be exercise frequency issues due to squats and barbell benching occurring once only every 10 days?
I actually encourage that.
That's how I set up my AB splits.
Yeah.
So I'm just jumping in on that. That's how my AB splits work. Usually lifters only doing squats and deadlifts every 8 days. Yes. If they want to squat twice, I'll add in 3 sets of pause squats or maybe a higher rep set on the off day. But I like them doing other quad work. How about you on that other leg focus work workout, Faz? How about you?
Generally, I will alternate something like a squat and a partial deadlift with a full deadlift, or like something from the floor and a leg press. Those are my two go-tos because they tend to work quite well. Or maybe a squat and a bent over row, or like a heavy, bent over row. Again, with a leg press and a deadlift works quite well if they're not as much into deadlifting. But yeah, no, 1 cent. That's a pretty standard approach to me. For me, 2 rotations. Have a squats in one rotation, deadlifts in another. The thing that will save you as a moderately advanced natural lifter is variety.
Mm-hmm.
Variety of exercise. You can still hit the muscle frequently, but variety of exercise. Sorry, Steve, I'm just going to go off on a bit of a tangent here. Like, I think this is one of the misunderstood things about traditional high intensity training, like the whole gas principle of recovery. I think this is where it falls down, because the gas principle of recovery says that when you're recovered, you can go again, but it doesn't take into account that there are many systems in the body with different recoveries levels. So your muscles recover tremendously fast. Ligaments don't recover very fast at all. And, there are other structures, well, your nervous system and all that kind of stuff, but your muscles recover insanely fast. So Steve and I used to talk about full body routines back in Muscle and Brawn days. And what we would do is have a heavy, light, medium system where we would have a heavy exercise, let's say for the quads, squat, light exercise, midweek, leg extension, and at the end of the week, have a medium exercise like a leg press. That's a perfect combination because you're able to hit the muscle 3 times a week, so it recovers really fast, but you're able to get enough exercise frequency that you're not hitting the ligaments in the same way. So exercise variety is your golden weapon, is your golden tool for progress as a natural, decently advanced lifter. That's your big weapon.
Not just because of the different systems in the body, but we are also learning, modern hypertrophy science that a little bit more exercise variety is better, because you have regional, like this is honestly, this should be obvious. I can go squat and leg press, but if I go walk up a hill, I'm going to get sore. The body is very specific in adapting to very specific movements. So having a variety is only a good thing. And Faz, I've stressed this over and over and over again in the last decade. The body isn't just a muscular system, right? And not everything is just muscle, 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 muscle. Especially when we got into the muscle protein synthesis era, and you got to train like this or you're an idiot. Like, the body is more than muscle protein synthesis. Lifting is more than muscle protein synthesis. And then we got pulled down the rabbit hole of the strong lifts and starting strength, squat, 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 Texas method, squat, squat, squat. And then everyone's like, yeah, but that's a strength program. Yeah, but every guy on the internet's using it for a muscle building program.
Mm-hmm.
So too much squatting. All right. Sebastian did 2.1K in 15 minutes and felt like I needed the restroom. Seemed to be a recurring thing with my cardio. You mean getting sick? When it comes to running, Sebastian, I want you to pick up a book called 80-20 Running, and it'll dive into modern endurance training. Now, I know you're not trying to be an endurance athlete necessarily, but endurance trainers train at the slowest sustainable pace. When I run, old people are almost walking faster than me. I'm not kidding. Like, I run at what's called conversational pace. I can run all fucking day like that. Excuse my, profanity. I can go out and run 5 hours right now like that. And that's what you want to do the bulk of your training at. So far too many people push endurance training, and you got to build your base, and that's how you build your base. But check out a book called 80-20 Running if any of you are interested in improving your endurance training. When I go to races, Faz, like we did a race in Tennessee a year and a half ago. It's a 50K, and they don't know me and my wife are together. She looks like a runner. I look like people will be like, there's a big power lifter dude out there, right? So they'll make comments like to my wife, like, did you see that big power lifter guy out there? And when I start, they're like, oh, he's slow. And then like 10K in, like, oh, he's slow, but he's still going. And then 20K in is like, oh, he just met me at the aid station, and then 30K in, they drop out, and I'm still going. Just because I've trained for so long at slow and steady, I can go forever. FAZ, I did 100 kilometers for my 52nd birthday. And you look at the video and like, this guy is pathetic. He's not a runner. But it's the pace. So I hope that helps some of you. Sorry to go off on a tangent. Johnny Miles, howdy from Fort Worth, Tejas. How's it going? Robert Anthony, I tend to favor my shoulders when performing chest press. Could a slight decline help me focus on my chest? I'll let FAZ tackle that.
Yeah, I was similar when I was benching heavy. I was similar because I had sort of longer limbs, and I would tuck my elbows in a lot more just to safeguard my pecs. So, yeah, I mean, the advice that was given to us back in the day for that kind of stuff was do additional work. I wouldn't try so maybe stick with your regular benching, but perhaps try decline, see if that helps. But also just dumbbells. Dumbbells are quite helpful. A dumbbell bench, you can keep a neutral grip so it can be safe for your shoulders, but just bring it out a little bit wider. So I quite like that. I will say though, Robert, I do like the decline for the chest. I personally agree with Dorian Yates that it's a very, very good exercise for the chest. I personally feel it just like I do with a weighted dip. It has a similar kind of action. So I quite like the decline for the pecs. Again, it's another one of those exercises alongside the deadlift, which has been vilified recently. But I think it's not a bad idea. But I would say, Robert, dumbbells.
And, FAZ, when you look at the average bench form, do you notice that people have a tendency to have it look more like a close grip bench than a regular bench?
Definitely.
So I would have somebody look at your bench grip width as well. And I'm not going to tell you to go super wide, but there's a chance a lot of you guys could benefit from going a little bit wider than you are now, and maybe a little bit less tricep focused, a little bit more chest focused.
Yeah, I'd also say it probably depends on how big you are. I mean, when I was competing in the 82 kilo category at the beginning of my powerlifting career, I was relatively narrow. It was only when I got to 93 kilos and a little bit heavier at 95 was I actually benching with a wide grip. So I don't know how big you are, Robert, but it may just be an issue there as well. Like you may not be able to go super wide, but like Steve's saying, just a little bit wider than you are might just recruit the chest a bit more.
All right, let's roll on. We got a lot to tackle, and we need to get FAZ tucked into bed here soon. FAZ, were you dancing in techno clubs in the early 90s wearing tracksuits?
We never wore tracksuits, no. I think tracksuits is more of a, I don't know. What is tracksuits? More of a, I thought tracksuits were just if you were robbing someone. I don't know. quick getaway. Techno clubs are a bit before my time. So I was like 18 in 2000. So yeah, probably a little bit before my time.
My wife's Australian. She has different slang for everything. So they call them tracky dacks. Like when she came over, like, where's your tracky dacks? Like, I don't know, right by my penis. I don't know where I'm with the tracky dack. You're talking about my balls? I don't know. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Advice for people who can't eat enough: eat more. It's a discipline. And look, I'm very skeptical, and I know I'm old and cynical, but you can eat enough. Add an ounce of heavy cream to a protein shake. Add a little bit of sour cream or cheese to a meal. Have a few nuts. Add a little bit of avocado. It's not that hard to add in 500 extra calories. So, and I'm just saying this, and I don't know you personally, but 90% of the people that tell me they can't eat enough, number one, they don't track or they're not disciplined. They're not dedicated they don't appreciate the consistency of nutrition like they do training, and they don't attack it with the same veracity, right? So, I've seen that so many times over the years, and most times it's laziness. If you're not being lazy, if you truly have a weak digestive system, then what I want you to do is walk over to the mirror and tell yourself, self, I want to be big and strong, and I need to do what it takes to get in my extra 200 or 300 or 400 calories that day, because if I want to look good, I need to do what is required to look good. There's no way around it. So, FAZ?
Yeah, so I I think all of that is very relevant, like what Steve said, because it is uncomfortable. But I'll also say this. I worked with a very large bodybuilder a few years ago who was about 230 at the time I started working with him. But he always had a bad stomach. And this guy was chowing down quite a large amount of food. But typical to most bodybuilders, he just sort of did it. Again, he did what Steve said, which just basically forced himself. But his digestion was never that good. And he was a competitive bodybuilder. So he always ended up just very watery on stage. So essentially, what we did was we took a year to establish what foods he could eat. And so we start with a baseline, like a FODMAP type of diet. So maybe we look that up. FODMAP, FODMAP. We start with a very basic FODMAP diet, and then we added in certain foods one at a time. And eventually we built up a list of foods that he was able to eat. And now he's currently competes at 245 years later. I don't work with him anymore. But Ian, that may be something you need to look at. Like, I don't think people really hyper focus on their nutrition quite as much as they should if they have a condition, if yours is an actual condition and you're not just like being a worse. So, but yeah, I would say maybe just strip back to the basics, find a small selection of foods which work well with you, use a FODMAP diet, see if that works for your stomach, and then slowly add foods in one at a time. You might even lose some weight during that process, okay? But for the long term, it may be helpful because you can get a list of foods that you can actually eat, and then you can gain from there.
So it's good to have Faz on the channel because he balances me. Because I have a tendency to be shut up and plow forward, and I know it seems like I'm being hard on people, but that's what literally every day, every second, everything I do, that's what I'm telling myself. So that's my mentality for better or worse. I came from a background where I didn't have anything, and a lot of people say that, but we were extremely poor. We didn't have a lot of food. We didn't have a lot of clothing. It was the 70s. They didn't enforce child support. Like, we had nothing. So I didn't even have anybody to teach me the basics in life, how to study or, good disciplines or anything, how to change a tire. So for me, my life is always like, shut up and find a way. And I think there's a good balance. That's why it's good to have Faz on here, because I tend to be like, just shut up and walk through the wall, So thanks, Faz. Frank Fitness. Have a good weekend, guys. Thanks, Frank. Frank's actually a client of mine. So,
yeah.
Hey, guys, I use VersaGrips on most of my back work. If I want to get some forearm grip work, would I work in a wrist roller a couple times? Wrist roller, captains and crush grippers, pinch, crush. There's different static hold types of forearm or grip work. So I wouldn't classify all grip work as forearm work or all forearm work as grip work. Any thoughts, Faz?
Yeah, I think with that, Richard, I would just establish whether you actually need to. If you need, add the wrist work in, add the forearm work in if you feel you need it, and if you feel you're not getting as much strengthening. Like, I personally, when I was competing in powerlifting, I always strapped up my deadlifts just because I wanted to go double overhand, and I never missed deadlifting competition. Never, not once.
Me as well.
Yeah, right. Actually, I have a theory on that, Steve. That the grip is more related to upper back strength than it is related to actual.
Yeah, stop for a second. Your theory.
Yeah.
There was a study way back in the muscle and brawn days, and it might have trickled into your brain. Or you just might have, and this is important because I've spoke about this many times over the years, and it's funny because me and Faz are reconnecting on a lot of different levels. But there was a theory or one study that hinted that when you have upper back strength, it signals the body to continue to hold. When your upper back is weak, it contributes to a weaker natural grip strength.
Yeah, because you look at what happens in strongman competitions when they're about to drop the weight, shoulder goes forward like that. They start hunching, and then their hands go. So there's a connection there. There's definitely a connection between the upper back and the hands. And you think on an evolutionary perspective, if there's something was so heavy or pulling against you so much that you couldn't even hold on to it, well, and it was causing your upper back to bend over, well, you should probably let it go because it's probably not safe. So interesting you say that, Steve. Yeah, I'll tell you my story on that. I was helping out, I forget his name now, but he was Britain's strongest man for 1 year. This immense athlete, this absolute chad of an athlete who lives up north. But he was having some problems because he had better form on his strapped deadlifts than he did on his strapless deadlifts. And he was just wondering why that was, because it just didn't make any sense to him. And so I told him, or was it the other way around? He had better form on his strapless deadlifts and worse form on his strapped deadlifts, right? So he had better form without straps, basically. And so I said to him, next time you do strapped deadlifts, squeeze the bar really hard. And I told him about my theory, and it worked. He actually got a better back activation doing that because he squeezed the bar really hard. So there's something to that relationship for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when people would come to me over the years wanting to improve their grip strength, I tell them to improve their back strength. And it sounds silly, but if you want to, that's a fundamental that you have to take seriously, back strength. And that's why I push hard, hard, hard. I've never had an issue with grip strength, and I've never trained grip. And I have, my wife makes fun of my hands as being these big sausage hands, but they're like, I wasn't born with great grip. But I like wrist roller. I do. I think it's easy. You can tuck one in your gym bag if your gym doesn't have it. I like that exercise. I don't like to overwork grip because elbow tendonitis is such a big thing. And for those of I advocate straps and VersaGrips for everybody on back work. And people like, well, why do they call it tennis elbow? And, how does that equate to lifting and gripping? Like, you notice they're gripping a tennis racket hard over and over and over again. Why do you think they get tennis elbow? Mm-hmm. So that's all right, let's move on. 3x3 deadlifts. I don't like it at all. I like it for beginners.
I wouldn't do it. You need more reps. You need to practice. 3 times 8, maybe.
Yep, and go slow and low and steady and work on form. And when it's been blessed by the Pope of lifting is reasonable, then you slowly progress. Don't be over aggressive on this lift. And that's why one of the reasons why I hate linear progression on squats and deads, for beginners. Like for me, Faz, we've talked about this many, many weeks ago. For a beginner, I would recommend dumbbell and machine exercises as the core of your hypertrophy work, and then working on deadlifts and squats in the periphery until you get formed on. Mm-hmm. Is that reasonable?
Yeah. I remember we did a video on that, and both of us agreed. Machine work to begin with, it just makes it a lot. It makes form less of a barrier. You want to just get to gaining. Also, you know what, Ayan, if you are that beginner, then the weak digestive system, maybe, we're erring more on what Steve said there, because maybe you don't actually have the experience to know whether your digestive system is weak. Just to go back to that question.
Any replacement for chest dips? Well, I don't know about a replacement. I would obviously encourage you to gravitate towards, you use the best tools you have. Bench press, dumbbell bench press, machine chest press. I like the pec deck for an isolation exercise because there's room for progression. And I like supersets of things like pec deck and push-ups, control push-ups, things like that. So use the best tools you have. Faz?
Yeah, I mean, again, assuming you are that beginner, Ayan, I would just focus on 2 or 3 exercises that you can do very well with good form and suit your body and get strong as hell on them. I wouldn't necessarily worry about trying to have a massive variety. Ayan, you seem to be doing a hell of a lot for a beginner, like 3x3 on deadlifts, replacements for chest dips. You need a basic routine of like 5 exercises, maybe 6, done a few times a week, and getting stronger on those. If and no disrespect, but from your picture, you don't look like the biggest guy. So maybe you just need to strip back a little bit, focus on a beginner routine. I don't know. Maybe this will motivate me to put out a beginner routine at some point.
All right, Martin.
Do you guys suggest 5x5 with the same way? I'm not a fan of 5x5. I don't like this. I don't like. First off, it's just there's magical arbitrariness to the 5x5. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't like that many sets per exercise generally. If I'm doing a 5x5 programming, the last set will be for max safe reps, so we have some kind of a progression indicator. So it can be done. It can be done great. Throw out the percentages, okay? Stop thinking of percentages. Instead, think of a progression indicator. What are you going to use as an indicator of when I progress? So what I do is 5, 5, 5, 5 last set, max safe reps. If you hit 7, then you add 5 more pounds. That's what I would do. So, Faz, are you? I mean, there's such a fascination with the focus on the 5x5s, and people take my opinion on them wrong. It's just not my favorite way to train.
People get really sort of obsessive about the 5x5 as well. So if you say you don't like it, they go, well, why are you ripping on Ripito?
Oh, and Reg Park and Arnold did Reg Park.
Yeah, Reg Park. I mean, Ripito says it's great. I'm like, yeah, okay, great. I never program, I hardly ever program that many sets per one exercise. Why not just do a couple of exercises and do 2 or 3 sets each? I just think you're going to get more out of it. You'll be able to sustain a higher degree of relative intensity as well. I just don't do that. I don't bother. No.
And one thing I hate,
grueling workout, 5x5 with 80% of your 1 rep max. That is horrendous.
If you can survive a 5x5 on squat and bench, it's not a great way to work out. And look, one thing that really gets under my skin is when we apply arbitrary set and rep schemes to every exercise. Like every exercise, the demand is different, and there's nothing magical about a 5x5. But people start to do 5x5s and overhead presses and barbell rows, and different. When you're coaching, you realize different people like 6 reps on barbell rows or 8. I just don't like applying arbitrary things to you have to do everything 3x8. That's a starting point, but that's not necessarily a finishing point. Mm-hmm. So,
I think over time you'll find what kind of rep range suits you. So yeah, like Steve said, don't try and pick something from what somebody else says. Right. I was waiting for this question. This is an interesting one. I'll field this because I want to talk you through some studies and see what you think, Steve. So I watched Faz's latest video on drop sets, and should I be using drop sets on my accessory exercises versus the traditional method? So Steve, there was a new study which was released just a couple of months ago, and what they did was they compared a volume equated via the number of reps. Group of people, about 24 altogether, and one leg was trained a certain way and another leg was trained a different way. So it was drop sets versus traditional training. So traditional training was using about 15 reps per set, okay? And they started at 3 sets, went up to 15 by the end of week 7. Now, the other leg was using a drop set protocol, and the way that he described it was the drop set so the main set and 2 drop sets was equal to 1 set. So it was a really intense set. So they were using like a 5 rep max. So we'd have a 5 rep max and then another little mini set and another little mini set immediately dropped. But they would count that as 1 set, whereas some people might count that as 3 sets. And they ended up doing 15 of those. They found considerably greater hypertrophy, like 5 times as much on certain points of the muscle. And it was measured via ultrasound, not via tape measure. So it was relatively accurate. So that was a pretty phenomenal study. And it was also backed up by the study that Fisher and Steele did a few years ago, which also looked at drop sets. And this idea is starting to form now that the intensity of effort, as in training to failure, very high intensity work, high loads, trained to, at high effort, appears to be better for muscle growth, whereas a lot of the straight set across stuff, the traditional training, tends to be better for strength, or at least similar for strength. That's kind of the picture that is starting to form from at least a couple of studies, which look specifically at the intensity technique drop sets.
So, way back in 2007, I tried this system called bulldozer training. I just made it up because I like DC training, this idea of DC training, but some of it wasn't practical or pragmatic, for me. And what I have always believed is that if I pushed a set hard and then used a safe technique to go beyond failure, that number one, you're getting the benefit of pushing a set for as many reps as possible. So you're getting maximum muscle fiber recruitment. So you're almost guaranteed to get the most out of a set. Yeah. And then if you don't let the muscle recover and you do a drop set or a rest pause, it's like taking a set past that point where you're recruiting maximal muscle fibers and continuing to push it. And I've always speculated that the benefit of that would be superior to in many cases, general just straight sets. So I'm actually excited to see this because sometimes you can go 20 years of your career preaching something fast, and then science says you were kind of right, so you get a little bit excited.
Yeah, for sure. Check out that video that I did. It's called More Muscle with Drop Sets, and I go right through the study. And actually, the lead researcher of the study found my video, and he commented on it, and he kind of gave some rationale for why he used, things that he did in the study. So it's a really good video. Go check it out.
So Faz and I were talking a little bit, and I'm actually going to be putting on a program like this, and profiting off of any discussions I have with Faz, and but seriously, we were talking about this, and in some cases, it's more pragmatic to do a rest pause set, and in some cases, it's a better option to do a drop set. What do I mean? Well, if you're at a gym by yourself doing a barbell bench, it's probably harder. It's more difficult to do a drop set unless you have a full, posse with you to rip plates off and, whatever. It might be easier to do a rest pause set. So there's some pragmatism to this, but kind of the same principle.
Exactly. I don't think there's really any difference between what you would gain from doing a drop set versus a rest pause. So I think it's just that they studied this drop set, but I think what they're studying is this, I don't know, how would you say it, sort of going deeper into a set. I think that's what they're trying to study. So whether you do that via whether you do that via drop set or rest pause, I think either way would give the same effect. So I tend to use a rest pause when it's a lighter exercise, and I don't really want to bother with changing the play.
All right.
I kind of use them interchangeably personally, the drop sets and rest pause. I think they mostly give you the same thing as what I'm trying to say.
All right. So Ruck Carlos, that's a great wrestling name. Training 3 times a week, full body. Should I train legs every day? Yes. But as Faz mentioned earlier, you probably want to do some HLM, heavy, light, mediate, heavy, light, moderate. So like squats, leg extensions, leg press, or squats. Sometimes if you're at a home gym, you don't have a leg press. So what I do, Faz, is squats, lunges, whatever, and then maybe a 20 rep set of squats, something a little, lighter. So
yeah. If it was chest, maybe weighted dips on a Monday, on a Wednesday, pec flies, and on a Friday, incline dumbbell bench. Mix it up. All
right, Red Devil Daza. That sounds like a wrestling name as well, like the Mexican. What do they call the Mexican wrestlers with the masks? I don't know.
Yeah, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. El Diablo Daza. Sorry. I have a shoulder issue, but love to bench 5x5. I lower the bar to about 2 inches from my chest. Okay, I'm going to address this, Faz, because this is me my entire life. I lower the bar 2 inches from my chest and press up, and I've taken so much heat.
Yeah.
Until Eric Spoto came out and called it the Spoto press, and then I was a genius. So, look, there's a lot of layers to this. And if you're controlling your bench and you can feel that, you're getting good control and you're not just bouncing, you're obviously not bouncing the reps. The further you take everybody's setup is different, limb lengths, arm lengths, whatever. So it can be okay. And by not taking it all the way to the chest, you can save some stress on the shoulders. So it can be fine. It can be fine. What are your thoughts in general, Faz?
I guess my first thought is, why do you love the bench 5x5? What is it about that you love? Because it's giving you problems, So is there anything else you can do which might not give you problems? I would also say, you're not cheating because, what gets you results gets you results. But in general, a full range of motion is probably going to give you better hypertrophy results. But as Steve said, you might get a better carryover from doing some partial work. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where you've got to be kind of careful because you don't want it to turn into just this arbitrary point. If it is a consistent 2 inches above your chest, then great. If it starts to be 3 or 4 inches after a month or two, then that could be a problem because then you can't really gauge whether you're progressing or not. I don't know. If it was me, I just would, because there's a lot of question marks there. If it was me, I would just avoid all that. if you really, really loved the 5x5 bench press and like that was like part of your identity, then fair enough. But I would just get rid of it, to be fair, and have you doing some like dumbbell bench, weighted dips, inclines, a whole bunch of exercises, and just see what works for you in terms of full range of motion that you can do safely. Or maybe look at how you're benching. I don't know. Maybe elbow position, need more elbow tuck. I don't know.
I'd rather see you doing two or three sets of bench and 2 or 3 sets of dumbbell bench, honestly.
Right.
If you want my best advice.
Yeah.
William Baker. Thank you. I have quite weak lower body. Thanks, genetics. Don't blame your dad, not your mom, and me being lazy for many years. I will forward along a squat video. Faz, your favorite music. I got this artist you can find over at Spotify. You might have heard of him, verified artist. He's got 9 people following him and quite a substantial list of recordings. So it's pretty spectacular. Faz, who's your favorite?
I like I like anything rap or hip hop kind of stuff, which kind of gets me going. But I don't listen to a great deal if I'm just sat around the house. And if I'm out walking, I listen to podcasts. But it's just gym music for me, like stuff which hypes you up a little bit. I guess it's kind of hip hop, like 90s hip hop is kind of my thing.
So I don't talk much about my music because it doesn't really cross wires with people seeing me train in the old dungeon to like really thundering heavy metal. But little known fact, I used to play like 50 to 70 shows a year. And I opened for some independent artists, did some stuff in Canada. I've been in the studio like 8 times. I suck mostly, but I got some good stuff. All right. Is it necessary to add direct front? No. Nope. Moving on. Never. You don't need a set of it unless you're some weird freak that has super underdeveloped delts. Best tasting whey protein? No idea.
Ian, I would say, because I feel like I know you now, I have so many questions. You don't need protein powder. You just need to sort out your training and get some decent meals in you.
Look, I'm not sure where you're from, but I don't do protein powder. Number one, there's just too many flavors and brands, and I hate mixing and shakers and all that kind of stuff. There are things like pure protein drinks, which are 140 calories and 25 grams of protein. If you're struggling into your protein, look at those. But other than that, stick with real foods as much as possible. Mm-hmm. I'm no expert on supplements. I just don't use a lot of them. So,
Ian, if you are from India or Pakistan, there does seem to be quite an obsession over there about whey protein. And a lack of focus on actual food. I would always say get your food sorted out first, especially if you're a beginner. The best thing you can do right now is to learn how to cook. Get somebody in your family to teach you how to cook. It will help you in your future, and girls love it. All right? So
yes. Do that. And you know what? There's never been a better time to learn how to cook. There's so many recipe videos and recipes and instructional videos, and people that don't at least take the basic steps trigger me. Woodulus from Scotland. Great show. Faz is rocking the V for Vendetta look today. Yes, he is. I didn't want to say it, but you said it, so thank you for saying it. What's your favorite mustache in bodybuilding? I was going to say Mike Mentzer. Is there any? I don't know. Is there anybody?
That's about it. Yeah. I'm keeping this for at least maybe another month, and then it's going to come off. I never really keep my facial hair for that long. I get sick of it after a while, and then it goes. My favorite tash is probably Bumstead. I'm going to say Bumstead, Chris Bumstead. That is one hell of a. He's got a real look about him. I like that tash.
So, where is this photographer? I was going to show you this, Faz, because let me see if I can pull this up. All right, I'm going to pull this up from a bodybuilding show. Mark Lobliner, who is used to be my partner. Used to be my partner in crime at Tiger Fitness, did a bodybuilding show, and he was trying to win a pro card last night. And
oh, really?
The quality of folks at this fucking show, excuse my language, like this was the guy that won, and he doesn't look the best to me. But the conditioning level and the aesthetics, this guy didn't win, but just look at the general I mean, the overall look is super impressive. The delts and the arms and the chest and the legs, everything. It's just a great look. Their conditioning was great. This guy looks great as well. Not quite a winner, but the overall conditioning of this field, that's the winner again.
Have you got any pictures of Mark?
Yeah, I mean, even this guy shredded wheat, even though he might not have the everybody's like super shredded wheat. They look great. Look at this guy, right? Just shredded to the bone.
That is insane. You know what though? The guy who takes these pictures is really good. The Whitman.
Yeah.
He has some great photos too.
Good balance, good aesthetics. And then here's Mark. Like Mark's ripped, but like there's like 7 guys that have like you don't stand a chance to win a pro card.
Yeah, damn, Mark looks good there, doesn't he? Wow.
He looks good.
Yeah, good on him.
That field, man, I'm like, wow, I feel bad for you because that's a tough field.
Yeah.
All right. So bodybuilding. All right, Bilal. Hello, gentlemen. Nice to see you collab.
Hey.
Bilal has been working with him for a while, and he doesn't realize how amazing he looks. Daniel, one of my clients, how to do a manageable cut. FAZ, more and more, I'm becoming a fan of the bulk for 3-4 months, cut for a month, just the way we are in modern life with all the overeating. Cutting, if you're going to do a longer cut, you have to be realistic with the impact of the number of days you're straying, or else you're going to draw this out forever.
Yeah.
And you have to track, or else you're going to guess. And there's many studies, FAZ, that show that when we guess, we're usually about 25% high. So you have some, FAZ, you have some interesting things that you might even call them a little bit controversial about eating less, or
So Steve and I are going to do a video on this at some point, but over the past few years I've used some techniques with my clients to get some like pretty insane results, but using methods which are probably a bit more on the side of not talked about in evidence-based circles because they're considered to be a bit extreme. Nothing like crazy or illegal or anything, but things like VLCDs, very low calorie diets, things which are highly supported in the research, but things which are kind of frowned upon in evidence-based circles because they have people eating fairly low calories. But we've got to bear in mind that there is a ton of research in the area going back 40 to 50 to 60 years. It's just because the current flavor in the evidence-based community is to do things very in a moderate kind of way. But we have this research going back decades, which shows that it's not only safe, so it doesn't lead to like a rebound, but also with the right education, it's actually better for long-term results than a regular cut. So there are ways and means of accelerating a cut to make it better and more manageable for, like, the main thing is hunger and cravings. My thing is this, Daniel, right? If I can set up the diet to slash hunger and cravings down by a lot, then I'm doing a good job. Because as we all know, it's all a calorie deficit, right? But just saying to somebody it's a calorie deficit is just next to useless, right? You have to, if you can set up the diet to actually help them manage their hunger, that is the golden ticket, you know? That's like playing chess, not checkers. Rather than giving the client like, hey, let me give you a cheat meal every Friday because that's what you want. What they actually need is they need a strategy to prevent them from getting hungry and lower the cravings. If you can manage that, that's the way to do it. Now, I have techniques which involve, like the VLCD helps with that. I don't know what it is about the VLCDs, but you put somebody on a very low calorie diet of, a reasonable amount of protein, reasonable amount of vegetables and all that kind of stuff with certain supplementation, their appetite will go right down to the floor for a lot of people. Not everyone, but for most people. I can't explain it, and I'm not sure anybody can. But we've seen it in the research multiple times. Just off the top of my head, there's one study that I saw was it compared people who had, I think it was something like 800 calories per day versus people who were dieting on something like 12 to 1500. At a certain point, not only were the feelings of hunger reduced, but also the feelings of fullness from a smaller meal were increased. Now, how mind-blowing is that? people who were at a certain break point of like 800 calories or 600 calories, people had the higher subjective levels of fullness from the meals, even though the meals were evidently smaller. There is some cool stuff that happens when you go low in calories, which make your life easier as a dieter, because they actually they start to curb your cravings. That's my whole, as a coach, you want to try and take care of the mental side of things as much as possible. So I'd like to do a video with Steve about that and bring to the table all the research that there is and some of the examples of people I've worked with. But that's your job as a coach, is to make your life easier for your clients. It's not just to say, hey, calorie deficit. Like you can do that on your own. But there are, so one is, we'll do a video on this at some point, but there's stuff like that. Stuff like fasting can help for a lot of people. There are a number of strategies which can make your cut easier psychologically and physiologically.
Faz, there's a study recently, and I'm not sure if it passed by your window, which basically said that maintaining muscle mass was a lot easier than we thought if you were training. Meaning, like, there's this inherent fear that on a cut, I'm going to lose all my muscle. Generally, people lose strength on a cut. Pressing can take a hit, etc. But like there's this fear they're going to lose all their muscle. And there was a recent study that basically says, it's really kind of hard to lose muscle once you have it if you're training. Yeah. And I would tend to agree. And just to end cap what you said, back after I got out of the military in 1994, I entered car sales. And I got in the world where I was working 70, 80 hours a week. And the harder you worked, the more cars you sold, the more money you made. Well, there was donuts and fast food everywhere. And the first time in my life I ever had access to those foods, which sounds ridiculous, but I was in the military, ate what they ate, you ate the slop and whatever. And I got up to 225 pounds after being 175 in the military. I'm like, I'm a fat ass. Okay, I need to lose weight. So I didn't do this with any specific reason, but I was down around 800 to 1,000 calories a day. And by week 3, I was flying, like never hungry. It was like cruise control.
Right.
So I don't know much about it. I don't pretend to know much about it, but I know once I hit that cruise control level, I was flying and the weight came off and it was easy.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. I'd also say on the muscle loss point, there's quite a large chasm between maintaining your muscle and gaining new muscle. So it's very, very easy to maintain your muscle. We can see that all the time. Ineffective training, ineffective diet, people on a cut, as long as you're still training, you're not doing anything too wacky, you're going to maintain your muscle. But the effort required to increase your muscle mass is quite a way away from that. What do you need to maintain your muscle mass is quite low. And just on the point of what Steve said, like if I've said to myself, if I was to do another contest prep, which I might possibly do next year as a bodybuilding show, I probably will do things considerably different and add in a lot of these techniques, which are going to curb my appetite and more than likely document that as well. But I would definitely, do more fasting, do more VLCD, and then match that with maintenance periods where I'm just not eating at a deficit at all. I'm just maintaining my body weight. I personally like fast drops and then hold. Fast drop, hold. Fast drop, hold. Less dieting time, but diet harder as a general rule. If you can tolerate it. Sorry.
That's one of the reasons why I'm leaning towards go in, crush 2, 3, 4 weeks, get out, go to maintenance. Like, I'm tired of the bullshit where people go in and it's like, on the weekends, I'm going to drink beer. On the weekends, there's like the ups and downs, and you never make any progress. So my challenge for people is let's talk about how far you can go without breaking. Let's just go in, drill deep, get it over with, and hit maintenance.
Yeah. Oh, just one last point to end. Like I have one contest prep client right now who I've got doing 2 weeks of maintenance followed by 4 weeks of cutting. Like anyone can do 4 weeks of cutting. On their, anyone could do 4 weeks of hard cutting. So she's doing 4 weeks of hard cutting followed by 2 weeks of maintenance. Right now, she is uber lean. If you guys check out my Instagram page, you'll know what I'm talking about. She's uber lean. She still has, menstruation, all that kind of stuff. So she's still healthy. So that's all good. I've also had male clients in the past do very low days followed by maintenance days, and just literally get into contest shape doing that. So like, let's say they train 4 days a week. Those 4 days will be pretty much normal days, and the 3 days will be really freaking low. I've actually got guys into contest shape with that strategy. So they go into the show day having a full day of eating on every training day. Like, if you do things intelligently, you can do amazing things with the body without the use of drugs, without the use of all that kind of stuff. And they can be a lot better than just saying, okay, straight calorie deficit. But if you know what you're doing, there are ways to do that. And if the client is receptive and his biology responds well to it, there are ways of making the cut easier and more manageable for managing hunger, but also for keeping performance high as well as they diet down. That's important too.
So Faz, we're going to draw this out into something that could be its own video, but
yeah.
One of the things I've done over the years is like a banking system, which kind of plays off what you just said. For somebody that's not in contest prep, let's say you have 4 days of maintenance. Let's say for a male, just say your calorie maintenance level is 3,000 because it's a round number, and you have 4 days of maintenance for your training. Let's say you have 2 days at 1,200 calories. Okay, let's go real low. So you just banked 3,600. Okay, you got 1 day left in the week, and you want to go out and have wings or pizza or whatever. If you're looking to maintain weight, you can crush 3,600 on that. Well, wait, we're 36 under. We got 36 in the bank. You could literally go out and crush 6,600 calories and be at maintenance for the week, right?
Yeah.
So I don't encourage the binging and the craziness, but you could literally go out on Saturday night, crush 5,000 calories, still be in a deficit of 1,600 for the week. And, it's a banking system. So,
yeah, I mean, this is where the waters do get a little bit muddied, because what Steve said there was really important. Like, we don't encourage binging and purging. Okay? It's not about that. We're not saying that at all. And all I will say, I have a lot of experience in the area. I actually work with people who have binge eating disorders. So all of this is very much for the person, individualized for the person. But all I'll say is this: what's normal for one person may well look completely disordered for somebody else. There is no normal. Now, if that type of system encourages you to binge and purge, then obviously it's a no-go. Do not do it. Do not. If you have a past experience of doing that, do not do it. But I know at least one of my clients, now an ex-client, who does that, does it beautifully, maintains his weight, really, really lean, and does pretty much the exact same strategy that Steve's talking about, except he has like 2 or 3 free meals across the week, which are smaller, rather than one big meal at the weekend. So it depending on, again, what looks normal for you can be very different to what looks normal for somebody else. And the only thing that, if we get right into the weeds of it, the only thing that says you've got an eating disorder is your reaction to an event. It's not necessarily the event in itself. Like if the event causes you a lot of anxiety, causes you distress, it affects you negatively, then it's a problem. Then by definition, then it becomes an eating disorder. If you have just a varied schedule of eating and you're fine with it, that's not an eating disorder. It's okay until it's not okay, and that's what most people agree on.
Yeah. So if you're the guy that's struggling on Saturday night and you like to go out and have a few drinks and get your funky donkey on, it might be better off pulling back a couple times during the week to what FAZ says, a LCD, low calorie diet. But understand your maintenance level, understand your bank, how many calories you got in the bank, and still leave room for a deficit, and you have plenty of play room. So, all right, let's roll on. Ruck Carlos, Intercontinental Champion. You say a training session should be around 60 minutes. What I say is I don't like to keep people in the gym longer than 70 minutes because they have lives. So if you're in the gym longer than 70 minutes, if you like staying in the gym longer, stay in the gym longer. I don't care. You can rest longer between sets. That's fine. Just make sure your sets are hard. So we talked about this earlier. How many sets should it consist of? Just start with a reasonable number, maybe 8, and per body part, major body part per week, and make them hard and adjust intuitively. I never count sets. Ryan, do you agree with Louis? Says training 90% plus 3 weeks in a row on the same exercise. I'll let you go ahead, Faz.
Yeah, so that goes back to what we were saying earlier. Variety will allow you to do that. Okay, excellent. So in if you remember the Zatsiorsky's science of strength training and development, remember from back in the
like that,
yeah, something like that. Basically, he stated, and it's true, that there are two ways of training in high intensity all the time. You can either deload frequently, or you can have a lot of great deal of exercise variation. I've done both. I currently use exercise variation. So 1 week I'll do one set of like heavy, light, medium. The other week I'll do something else. So the reason that Louis says that is because you can go, assuming you're a beginner to intermediate, you can go 90% for 3 weeks, and then you change exercises. Bear in mind, the advanced guys do it for 1 week and then they change. So exercise variety is your best friend when it comes to training like that.
And I would say try to avoid deadlifts anywhere above 87.5%. I don't believe there's any real. I believe it takes more than it takes more than it gives. That's my opinion. We're all going to make it, brah. Are flax seeds and soy bad for men? Anything within reason's okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
If not, I'd probably. Man, I love soy sauce. I had soy sauce last night with my sushi. Focus Fitness A, you guys motivate me. Thank you for joining us. Bluegill Greg, the muscle belly swelled from the saline to reconnect. That sounds like a great one-line poem. I'm lost there, so I'm just going to take a left at Albuquerque. I work out no days a week. How do I build a massive chest? The only thing I would say if you don't work out is to get a large partner, and I'm not going to assume gender because it's 2021. So get a large partner and practice pressing yourself off your partner or pressing your partner off of you. All right, soy sauce, banana. Squat is my weakest list. These were plus ones over last week. Do I add weight or stay here? All right, so you're doing 4 sets of squats. First thing I would probably do is allow yourself the freedom to drop a set on any given week if you're not feeling up to it. And with that type of, you're keeping the same weight. So probably the first set should be the progression indicator. Do your hard work on that first set. And then on the back off sets, only push those sets for as quality reps as you can. I'm sorry, I just said. So I would say maybe when you hit 10, what do you think, Fast?
Yeah, I'm also a fan of that system. The first set as the money set, the rest of your sets bringing up the volume. Use the first set as your gauge. If you're getting between 5 to 8 on that first set, you may as well go up. Also, I find it a little bit suspicious that you're 9876. That's a little bit too symmetrical for my liking.
Yeah, usually if you're crushing that first set, the second set's going to drop off by 2-ish. Yeah. So soy sauce, banana. I want you to come back next week with a video. I want you to do one. Here's the challenge, soy sauce, banana. I want you to video, and I want to see you do 135 by 12. And if you video it and do 135 by 12, I will send you a free muscle and brawn massive iron logbook and a T-shirt. Okay, but if it's a half squat, you're fired. Jake the Snake Robert, the fastest, most effective way to increase my bench. Hire me or Faz as a coach.
Yeah.
There's no one method, but you need somebody that can look at everything, including your diet. I'm not being facetious and I'm not being dismissive, but there's no fastest one way to increase your bench. You really need somebody to look under the hood. Gravity training.
I think he said he was going to reword this.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks for answering. You bet. 3 days grace. Could you help me get through the BS on this one? Benefits of fasting, not for weight loss. Look, Faz, I don't mean to stop you, but there's something, like when you look at fasting, what is the what's the key word or the catchphrase or the key focus that people talk about when it comes to fasting?
Autophagy.
Yeah, autophagy. Good grief, I couldn't remember. So, wasn't there some research that said, I'm not dismissing fasting, but lifting provided the same autophagy benefits as fasting?
Yeah. Autophagy is very overblown 3 days. Okay, very overblown in the fasting. Like, I'm a faster. I fast loads, right? I love it. But autophagy is very, very overplayed. The main benefit is this: it sometimes, for some people, for a large amount of people, it helps them with appetite control. If you're the kind of person who's more of an emotionally driven eater, so like you have a bad day, you reach for the chocolate, fasting can generally work quite well. That's what the research shows. If you aren't that, then fasting isn't as effective. Also, there is some small amount of evidence suggests that fasting is not that great for women, but that's literally the only benefit is those. It can make it easier potentially.
All right. So anybody that can do what I'm going to ask right now is going to win a T-shirt. And if I say you win a T-shirt, hit me up on Instagram at Ben the Barman. So I want to open FAZ's. I want to open a magical box for FAZ. So tell me the YouTuber that talks about fasting and autophagy. He's from Canada, and he opened his videos like "Hey fat ass" or "Hey fatty" or something.
Ooh.
A huge following, and every time I talk about autophagy not being the holy grail, I get like 17 of his followers calling me an idiot and referring to one study. All right, so
I was about to say Thomas DeLawler, but he's very polite, isn't he?
We'll get you. You'll watch one of the videos and your head will be like. Top 5 leg workouts. You mean exercises? Squats, leg press, hack extension, hack squats. Yeah. Lunges or reverse lunges, and Bulgarian split squats or RDLs. I don't know.
Good list.
Yours fast?
I would say leg press, pendulum squat.
Wait, I left out leg extensions and sissy squats.
Oh, yeah, those are my last 2. Leg extensions, sissy. I love sissy squats. Sissy squats and pendulum squats are money.
Pendulum squats are hard to find a machine, but if you can find one, you're in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Beep boop. When you say don't do front delts, no. That what I'm saying is don't do direct front delt work. Hey guys, favorite bodybuilder of all time, Faz?
We had this conversation, didn't we? In one of our lives. I went for Jay Cutler, 2008. His comeback. I think 2008 or 2009. The comeback year. Yeah,
and look, I mean. The best, like I like looking like Mike Mentzer when he was at his peak. I love his look. If I could walk around like that picture, I'd be satisfied. Yeah. But personal favorite, outside of how they look, was Tom Platz because he was counterculture. He was just not about arms. He was about legs. So big fan of that. And since Faz mentioned Jay Cutler, look at that sexy picture.
Hey, awesome.
Yeah, one thing about Jay, when he came into Muscle and Strength, he went out of his way to meet everybody, and he wasn't a phony. He was a good guy. He's awesome. I'm a big fan of Jay, just because he's real and a really good guy.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Currently, Chris, your photo looks great, by the way. Currently training at home in lockdown in Australia, doing push-pull leg split. Any benefit in doing 2 sessions a day? It'll save your sanity during lockdown.
Yeah. Chris, I would say if you are going to failure quite a lot, just be careful with fatigue and nervous system burnout. Okay? So if you're training very heavy with heavy loads, low repetitions, the whole like Mike Israel crowd, they do this. They do push-pull legs repeated like 3 times because they train in the morning and the afternoon. That may be where you're getting inspiration to do that. Just bear in mind, they typically don't train to failure unless it's the week before a deload, and they generally tend to use repetitions on the higher end. So just let that influence your thinking a little bit. Hopefully that helps.
So Faz, when I right now I do morning and evening sessions. Okay. And I don't get up on Monday morning. That's rule number 1. Where did you go? Hold on, I lost my tab minimized. I don't do Monday morning, so I start Monday evening with back, and then Tuesday morning biceps, then Tuesday evening chest, and then Wednesday morning triceps. So I kind of stick with that pattern, etc. So that's kind of what I do.
Cool.
LOL, so true. Not sure what you're referencing, but glad we were funny. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to roll through these to get Faz in the bed. We tried to science up a hobby discipline when most people don't know how to think scientifically. And most people, They just aren't working hard enough yet to have it really.
I think that applies to that Ron guy I was telling you about, for sure.
And, I get messed up every time I see gravity training post a question, because there's a channel called Gravity Transformation that has 4 million subscribers. They're the fat loss experts, and they just do weird whack. It's just, they're making a lot of money. Beef McLewis, is there any value for pausing bench reps as a non-competitor? It'll help with tightness. It'll help you avoid doing the bouncy thing.
It's a good variation.
Yeah, Beef, you said you were the drummer for Wasp, and I said to send a picture and to prove it. So I don't know if I ever got that picture, Beef McLewis. You're on here all the time. If you are, I had the Wasp album back in the day, so we got to get you a massive iron shirt. You need to hit me up. So the 84 Bud Dry champion. I'm not sure what that is. Thoughts on pause bench, Faz?
I think it's good as a variation. I used it a lot in my competitive career. So pause bench and close grip bench were my favorites, for sure. As a non-competitor, it's good to mix it up. If you do bench for a while, you get stale. Why not switch it up?
When I get somebody that is super bouncy or super, like they're trying to do speed stuff on bench, I might have them pause. Trying to reword the question so it gets posted. No worry. As an overweight guy, I could barely run 400 meters at 17. Today, after 7 months consecutive running, I could do 5K. That's good. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Am I pushing enough? Look, don't worry about speed. Like, run. Just enjoy running, man. I mean, just enjoy. And, like, if you're on pavement, get on a trail. Get out in the woods. It's better for you. It's better for your health. It's better for your stress. It's better for your conditioning with ups and downs and challenges. This isn't a competition, dude. If you can run, if you can run 21K, you're faster than me. I don't run for speed. People ask me all the time, what's your whatever, 5'10"? I don't know. I don't care, man. I want to get out there and see if I can run a marathon every single day. That's what I like to do. Gravity training, I can't dip without weird shoulder discomfort, but when I tuck legs and lean forward, I'm fine. I kind of do the same thing, Faz.
I do the same thing.
Yeah. So is there anything to it? I mean, it just feels better.
Yeah. I know what you mean, the shoulder discomfort. I get it from the shoulder to the elbow. I get pain here with this tendon. I don't like it. So I just lean forward. And yeah, I don't know, dude. You're in good company, I guess.
Yeah, I think it just has something to do with general shoulder stress. So
obviously, very muscular, handsome men have this problem. So
I would say so, and my wife would agree. Mike McClellan, I watched Faz's latest video on drop sets, and should I be using drop sets on my accessory exercise? Mike, if you want to, hit me up. And I'm as soon as I get a free time, I'm actually trying to put together a program like this for my clients. So just hit me up. For decline benching, do you take flat bench and add plates under one side?
No, I just use a decline.
If you don't have access to a regular decline unit where you can brace your feet, I wouldn't do it. Yeah. Whoa! Now we got a clarification, Faz. 8 hours of training in 2 sessions. You need to get I'm saying this kindly with love, like your dad. First, go clean your room, and second, you need to stop doing that.
Yeah, no,
you're not getting. If you can work for 4 hours in a session, you're not something like you having a meal, going to McDonald's during the halftime or what? All right, Sebastian, would the slow and steady cardio help prepare one to join the military? Absolutely. What you want to do is you want to do 2-3 sessions a week, slow and steady. And then you want to do 1 session a week where you do tempo work or speed ups. And that's what's going to improve your speed. So for example, my tempo work is out 15 or 20 minutes to warm up at slow, steady. And then I'll do a minute at what's called level 3, which is a gear below sprinting. So I can sustain that for a minute or 2 minutes. And then I'll do 2 minutes back at slow and steady, then another minute or 2 at that gear below sprinting. That's called speed ups, and that will help you with speed. Creatine boosts my bench press more than any other lift. Gone from, okay, that's that. If you can do that in 2 weeks, it's not creatine, it's you. I don't feel the weight very heavy, but it's the bar path. I don't feel the weight very heavy, but it's the bar path and the eccentrics that limits me. Just general tips: get everything strong. Do dumbbell bench. Do a lot of tricep work. Just do your overhead pressing work and nail your diet consistently, and just be patient.
Can I just say as well, I never really bothered that much with the bar path when I was competing. There seems to be this massive obsession with downloading apps, drawing lines, and all that kind of like.
Yeah, it's great for app revenue, but it's
great for coaches who don't know what they're doing. Like,
Kaz, me and you need to make a video about like comparing our bench press with all this stuff that's going on. You know what I'm saying? Because like we both don't do any of this stuff, and we both don't really overly focus on tightness.
There are more important things to worry about.
Slava Belkin. You're gonna fight Rocky in the next Rocky movie. That's a great name. Advice for people who get injured extremely easy. Well, I would have to ask you a lot of questions, and I'd look at your volume, your frequency, your warm-up protocol, etc. So if you want help, I'd be happy to look at your programming. You're going to have to email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. Send me your programming details and your injury history, and I'll take a cursory look at it. Reasons, solutions for golf elbow. Reasons is a lot of gripping, and this is my bro science opinion, and it tends to impact you right here. And solutions, VersaGrips, VersaGrips, VersaGrips. Straps are great, but my VersaGrips are 12 years old, and they're still holding up. And I had brutal elbow tendonitis till I started using them, and now I'm absolutely perfect. And all my clients, I'm like VersaGrips, 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 and they're seeing improvements. So just want to shout out Big Hairy Ugly Dude for making me feel more confident about my squats. It's my pleasure. Any day I get to help anybody with lifting is a great day. So thank you for the opportunity. You're definitely my top 3 YouTubers. I understand if the top 2 have just sexy, voluptuous breasts. FAZ is number 4, right?
I'm happy with that. That's good.
Luchadores, yes, that's it. The Mexican wrestlers with a mask, Luchadores. Is that it? All right, 90s rap rocks my boat and definitely pushes my progress. How to get enough protein as a vegetarian? Faz, you have any? I have vegan and vegetarian clients, but I do some research, but I'm no expert. So, any thoughts?
I mean, all I'd say is 2 things. One, you don't need that much protein. Okay, like we're looking at about 0.8 grams per pound, and that's assuming you're on the leaner side. So let's say you're 10-20% body fat. Yeah, 0.8 grams per pound is pretty much all you need. So for me, that works out to be about 150 grams of protein. That's not very much. All right. And the other thing is the latest research and experience seems to suggest it doesn't actually matter if it comes from vegetarian sources or not. So, I mean, my diet, Steve, is pretty much vegetarian or vegan, apart from some small, maybe like 10% of the diet, which is meat. Everything else, I eat a ton of vegetables, a ton of fruit, all that kind of good stuff. So all you need to do is make sure you're having all the extras, and then have a certain portion of, I don't know, what is it? Corn, seitan, all that kind of stuff, tofu. Add that in. There you go. Just add it in as replacement meat. You don't need much, okay? You don't need much. Like it's a small amount. So it's unlikely you're going to need more than 150 grams anyway. Just work it out, 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, assuming you're 10-20% body fat, and just add in some vegan or vegetarian substitutions.
Yeah, I call myself a plant-strong meat eater. Anybody that struggles with hunger needs to learn to eat, more plant-strong, more plant-focused. So back here on my bookshelf, I have about 5 or 6 vegan cookbooks just on side dishes.
Right.
I go to the experts. I go to I'm not vegan, but the vegan side dishes, man, I got a whole resource back there. So. I don't know. Anything that's like what I like about vegetarian and vegans is that if they're not doing a lot of the processed food, they're on a really good path, and it's hard to overeat.
Right.
So there's a lot of crap foods out there, and that's nothing I want to dive into now. To add up the other 5 to 8 grams, what are we doing?
I think that's
I don't know, because
the next message. So always go a little higher.
Oh, so I always go a little higher with your protein intake. Faz, I made a comment yesterday on Instagram. Like the protein intake thing is so overblown.
Yeah.
I don't count grams. I never count grams. Some days I get 130. Some days I get 140. Some days I'm lucky to get ones. I don't think I've averaged 150 over the last 35 years of lifting.
I don't think it's that important, and even if you're vegetarian, I don't think it's that important. It's like, as I say, 0.8 grams per pound, and that is assuming you're lean, so you probably need less than that. So you're good. You're probably all right. You can probably get enough from your beans and all that kind of. Maybe add a little bit of extra in. I also say I don't think you need to go higher if you're vegetarian, and I don't think you need to go higher if you're cutting either. I just think the whole protein thing is very overrated. Eat your vegetables; they're very important.
Hulk Hogan said, "Train, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins." And as long as you're training hard, I believe the body's adaptive processes are going to get you to where you want to go with muscle.
Yeah.
I'm not calling for you to eat 60 grams a day, but just be reasonable and balanced.
Yeah.
I'm stuck. Look, many plateaus at that level aren't plateaus. What you need to understand is, what is that, like a 275 bench by 9?
Yeah, that's strong.
That's
2.5 plates.
That's super late intermediate. Depending on your weight, could be early advanced lifting. At that level, every rep, go to 1 rep max calculator and plug those numbers in. When you add a rep to that, you add 6 to 7 pounds on your max. Okay. You might only add 2 to 3 reps a year for the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. So you're not at a plateau. You need to understand that. You added a rep 3 weeks ago. That's great progress at where you're at. That's great progress. You come back, if you haven't added a rep in 4 months, then I'd still say you're making great progress.
Yeah, I mean, I only ever did 140 for 8 at my absolute peak, and I was a 180 bencher. So that is tremendously strong. At this stage, Brendan, if you haven't done so already, you're probably going to need a slightly more complex system of periodization. So if you are interested in learning about that, get in touch.
I've done 140 for 10, and I hovered around there for quite a long time, like years. I have FAZ. I'm sure FAZ is a system. I have a system I use for my trainees where I do lower rep stuff and I do some really higher rep stuff, and it works really well.
Yeah, similar.
Signs of overtraining. Number 1, you spend too much time on the internet and believe you're overtraining.
I did do a video on sleep disruption. Yeah, I would also say mood, sex drive are 2 big ones for me.
I will say, I won't say I'm overtraining, but I know after 2 hard days of training, I feel sleepier and I feel overworked. Same with running. If I run hard, like 4 hours in 2 days, I need a 3rd day off. I wouldn't call it overtraining, but I feel sluggish. I feel tired at my desk. So pay attention to those micro things. It's not a bad idea to even log them in a logbook. How's my energy level today? A 5, a 3, whatever. So, all right, I'm trying to get Faz out of here. Richard Murray from Scotland. Due to being glued to Massive Live, I've once again burned dinner. Pizza, my friend. Can you? I don't know. It depends on where you live in Scotland. You might have a hard chance. I got a funny story from Scotland, and I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to tell it on the worldwide interwebs. But I'll tell it real quick and torture fast. So once you get out of the big cities, right, and in America, you got out of the big cities and you drive for 2 hours, you're going to run into 252 gas stations that are open at any time of the day or night, right? So we left Scotland and we were headed towards the Isle of Skye. And we left at 5 because we wanted to get there early, right, and explore the Isle of Skye the whole day. So we're driving at like 6:30 in the morning. There's nothing open. There's no rest stops. There's no off ramps. There's no on routes. There's nothing. And I had to go poop. All right, so I'm just saying the word poop because that's funny. But there was a closed castle with a huge parking lot, and it was the only place to stop on the way to Isle of Skye. So I'll let you guys fill in the blanks. But I had to go in the parking lot of this ancient grand castle, and I feel like it's one of the top 10 worst things I've ever done in my life. All right, is progressive overload overrated in 2021? No. Only if you follow somebody that tells you that volume is all you need.
It's still relevant.
Thank you, Blue Gill. Can you run a mile immediately after lifting? I do it all the time. After lifting, I usually go out and run for 1 to 2 hours. Will it be bad for gains? If you're going to go out and run a mile, no. If you're going to go out and do something a little bit longer, you might want to have some small carb meal. Faz, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think it's that big a deal, but if it's any longer, maybe just smash a protein shake directly after training and be on your way. That's all you need.
All right, Aaron, if you had to choose one country to live in for the rest of your life, where would it be and why? Until last year, I was leaning towards Scotland. But now there's this totalitarian, stuff going. I don't know. It scares me. My Scottish friends tell me it's not as bad as it sounds. No. Me and Faz are actually talking about this, so we'll let you know when we get it figured out.
Yeah.
Faz was trying to push me to Ireland.
Ireland's great. A lot of space, a lot of land. Nice place. For me, I would say, I lived in South Korea when I was younger. I mentioned it earlier. Lovely place. Very nice people. Great family-oriented people. So maybe there. But I also like Ireland as well.
Yeah, we spent time researching Ireland this week and the reason for the painted houses and things like that, and the differences in culture. Yeah. Thoughts on late bodybuilder Ziz, the man behind the aesthetics movement? Man, it's been like a decade since I heard his name. I can't even remember why he passed. He was just a young guy that looked great and did, I don't know, partying or whatever. I don't know what his demise was.
I quite like him. I think I liked him for the fact he was quite confident in an age where a lot of people don't have confidence, don't have happiness. He had that, and that's just nice to see. I don't agree with his use of drugs. I think that's a very bad influence for young people. But I like the fact that he just didn't give a damn and he was happy about it. You can't hate a guy like that. Like, he's happy with life. We should all strive to be that. That's good. But I massively disagreed with his drug use. I thought that was not good at all.
Yeah, I don't know. In this day and age, few people, with fewer and fewer people actually living, meaning, they have hobbies and interests, but so few people go out and explore and adventure and leave their house. Love big, hairy, ugly dude in a button-up and slacks. Thanks. Is that my wife? How would you calculate weight on a Smith machine? You don't. You don't worry about the bar. It weighs like 10 to 12 pounds. Just do plate weight.
Yeah.
Or cheat and pretend the bar is 45. Who cares? It doesn't matter as long as you're progressing. So I respect the question, Brips, but it's one I get a lot, and I don't know. I just use the weight on the bar. How to manage a plateau. The first thing you need to do is verify that it is a plateau, because I've made many videos about this. And you also need to look at your nutritional consistency. Faz, if you're an intermediate lifter, I say this all the time, if you're adding 1 rep to a major lift a month, you're doing well.
Yeah.
So,
which set are you failing on, or you're not progressing on? If it's your second, third, or fourth set, then doesn't matter as much. If you're going up on your first set, that's probably the best indicator. Fatigue after that, it doesn't really matter, because dynamic double progression, every set has got its own sort of thing, So just like a routine way, the first exercise is more important. Just as long as you're going up with that first set, I wouldn't really consider it a plateau.
The one thing I will say is the deeper in the training you get, the more you need to track everything. you need to track so you have numbers. Because if you say you have a plateau, but you don't know what your arm size is the last 16 months, you don't know what your lifts are. The first thing I when somebody says, I have a plateau, I said, what was your bench best weight and reps from 4 months ago? And if they don't know, you don't have a plateau.
Yeah, but we can only really offer general advice. If you want something a bit more specific, feel free to hit me up on like Instagram or something like that, FAZ Lifts, and I can talk to you a bit more.
Hey, it went through. Would love to see a Massive Iron podcast. Just don't stop doing these. I don't really want to stop doing these. I just want to find a way to work in a podcast and, that sort of thing. Which first grips would you recommend? Pros. They're a little bit longer. There's no downside. Will I see more gains if I swap from 3 sets to No. Everything that gains are dependent on hard work and consistency and attitude and nutrition.
And Brendan, if this is related to your 120 for 9 bench, as we said, that's a pretty high bench. So you may need to look at periodization models now.
All right, guys, we are out of here. I appreciate you, FAZ, tuning in for the whole 2 hours and 30 minutes. Whey for vegans? No, that's not a vegan product.
Like pea protein, stuff like that,
Yeah. So I appreciate you joining me, FAZ. And anytime FAZ wants to come on, he's welcome to come on. So you can give him all the peer pressure you want. He is engaged, so if it disrupts his engagement at all, you guys are to blame. If it destroys his Friday night, you guys are to blame. So the only thing I'm thinking of is maybe moving Massive Iron Live to a different day of the week. But then again, I'm not really sure. So we will discuss that. So FAZ, I appreciate you joining me. Everybody can find him at FAZ Lifts on YouTube. Please go over to his channel and subscribe. And head over to Instagram at FAZ Lifts. FAZ, what are you doing this weekend?
This weekend, I've got some plans for a family event, which is happening in a couple of weeks, which I need to do a few things for, of which I will let you guys know about another time.
Okay. I'm going to go run 2 hours tomorrow. And then Sunday, I'm going to go do hill repeats for an hour. And then I'm probably going to die. So that's my weekend.
Very cool.
In between doing probably 10 hours, 12 hours of client work. All right, guys, we'll talk to you next time. See you.